Venture X from Capital One is the travel card for people always asking,
where next?
You earn 10x miles on hotels and rental cars, and 5x miles on flights booked through Capital One Travel, and 2x miles on everything else you buy with Venture X. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges. The Venture X card from Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Shop Macy's last-minute gift sale and save 20 to 60%, plus an extra 20% off great gift ideas with your coupon or Macy's card. Not sure what to get? Let them choose with a Macy's gift card. Shop your local Macy's early and late, and get your orders faster when you pick up curbside or in-store. Plus, spend your Macy's money on anything, no merchandise exclusions. Details at Macys.com/Macy's Money. Savings off sale and clearance prices, exclusions apply.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hello, this is Zack Sabre Jr., New Japan Cup winner 2018. And you're listening to Keepin It Strong Style with my mates. Enjoy.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ASA podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review the finals of the World Tag League and Super Junior Tag League and cover all the latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tee store, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWWorld.com. Frequently updated with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and share playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Young boy, congrats on passing your FINRA exam, man.
Yep. So I am back on the show. It is not an illusion. It's not some false advertisement that's been going on here. They said I was coming back. Here I am. And I just got a little something for you and all of the listeners. Bear with me just one moment.
All right.
That's right. I'm back, and I'm better than ever.
Oh, my gosh.
You see, Jeremy, since I've been gone, I've been keeping tabs on you guys. I've been listening to the show, and you run a tight little ship. You know what I mean? Like, it's been a nice little show, but there's been something missing. There's been an X factor that's been missing from the show. A certain panache, if you will, that I bring to the show. It's just, it hasn't been there. And now I'm here to inject the show with a dose of lethal injection. With what do you call it? Poison?
A lethal dose of poison.
A lethal dose of poison. And as you can see, I am wearing my honorary Oos shirt that I was gifted this past weekend during the 6th annual FOH draft, both our show as well as One Nation Radio, our special annual Christmas time episode, which I believe is dropping this week, right?
Yes, it will be dropping this week, so pay attention to the timelines in the socialsuplex.com. We'll drop the link to that because it will be on PayHip. It's a pay as you want model. Suggested donation will be $5, just like last year, to get you our Christmas show, the FOH draft. Last year's episode is available now for free on the Social Suplex Podcast Network feed. So if you're not familiar with our Christmas FOH draft, you can go back, check out last year's or previous years. We've been doing this, I believe, since 2017, 2018. So all the archives are there. So check that out. Stay tuned for the 2022 draft coming out this week.
All the episodes, if you want to find them, go to the Social Suplex page on whatever app you're using to listen to us to. And if you put in the search bar FOH, it should bring up every single FOH draft that we've done through history. They're evergreen, even though you're probably asking yourself, why would I want to listen to these guys talk about WWE from 4 years ago? Trust me, you want to hear these shows if you've never heard them. And the concept's pretty simple. Myself, Jeremy, James, Rich, 4 best friends, we get together and we drink copious amounts of alcohol. We imbibe and we get into a place where during this one episode, we say all the shit that we would never normally say on the air on our regular episodes. It is completely unhinged. And it's very crazy and wild. And I got to tell you, Jeremy, this is the first year where I feel very confident I was not the wildest one on the show.
I feel like every year you've gotten more like contained.
That's not true because like 2 or 3 years ago, I was like deeply ashamed of the episode and I didn't want anyone to listen to it. So I know that's
what I'm saying. Since then, I feel like you've gotten much better.
Last year was pretty crazy. 2 years ago was pretty crazy. Like, I don't know. But, I don't know if you recognize this, Jeremy, but I'm going to, I thought that the drinks I had on Saturday were so nice, I had to drink them twice. So I am indulging in what I called on the show strong spirits, but they're not actually strong at all. I went ahead and I infused vodka with Sour Patch Kids to create a very sweet drink. I should call them weak spirits, but they're very delicious. And, I figured I'd give the people listening a little taste, if you will, of FOH draft this past week.
Yeah. Also, our year-end awards of voting is still underway for our 6th annual Keeping It Strong Style year-end awards. Go on, get your votes out for that. There's a lot of tight races in some of the categories right now. Over 20 categories we have for you guys, full of great nominees. Our good friend Rocky Romero retweeted the link out this evening. So, we told you guys, New Japan office, they pay attention to these awards and, who's winning. Like I said, Rocky Romero retweeted it out on Twitter. So the link is all over the place. It's pinned also on our Twitter. If you go to bit.ly/KissAwards22, that will pop up the Google form. You can also find it on socialsuplex.com. So the Google form over there, you fill that out, get your votes in, and then I believe the January 11th episode of Keeping It Strong Style, we will announce all the winners in the 2022 year-end awards.
You know what happened there, right?
What?
Well, Rocky was in my DMs, you know what I'm saying? And he was like, guys, I need you to boost up this Copa Bicentennial trophy win that I did over here in Mexico. And I was like, Rock, you are our good friend, but most of our listeners are here for the Puro. They're not here for the Lucha. And he was like, what do we got to do? How do we cut a deal? And I was like, you got to tweet out the awards on the sly. And he was like, done.
Oh man!
So everyone that's wondering, like, why are these guys tweeting out about CMLL and Lucha Libre? Well, that's what happened there. It was a talent exchange, if you will.
Yeah. So yeah, get your
Quid pro
votes.
quo. Quid. What is it? Quid pro
Quid
quo.
pro.
Yeah.
Quid pro quo. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm just playing. He was just being a nice guy, and we were just being nice, so that's what happened there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got quite a few categories that are blow away, and then we've got quite a few categories that are like razor thin and kind of surprising. Every year, these awards tend to, surprise me, and they're doing it again.
Yeah, I tweeted out earlier. Yes, the Carl Gotch Strong Style award is in between Tomohiro Ishii and Shingo, two guys who have won the award in the past. It's literally neck and neck in first, second, and third place votes between those guys. New Japan of America MVP, tight race between Filthy Tom Lawler and Switchblade Jay White. So if you want your voice heard, get those votes in, break those ties, and let's get a clear winner in some of these categories.
Yeah, let's get some Ren Narita votes in for USA MVP. All right.
I'm kind of surprised that Jay and Tom are so close.
I'm not at all.
I am and I'm not. Because personally, I just felt like, with Tom's strong title run and being on the show all year, to me, oh, that's clearly, number one guy. But then, you think back at the US of J Open Challenge and just the frequency of Jay being on Strong and New Japan US pay-per-views this year. Yeah, he's right up there with Tom.
Even just very recently, he had a major match with Strong champion Fred Rosser. So, he's really kind of anchored that brand throughout the year. Maybe not the whole year, but I'm not surprised at all. I think that everyone who's been asking themselves what's been going on with Jay White this year, well, he was in the US working on Strong and kind of anchoring that promotion. So that's what happened there, and I'm not surprised at all. There are a few other people. You know what? Some of those races you mentioned too, it's not like it's just a two-way race. There are some other names that are possibly in contention too. So yeah, get your votes out, and we definitely want to hear your voice. And I'm sure we'll get a lot of last-minute ballots in, as we do every year, because right up until the 11th hour, it'll look like, some of these categories, it'll look like it's a foregone conclusion, and then suddenly you're like, what the fuck happened here? It's like, oh.
Yeah. So December 31st, 11:59 p.m. will be the deadline to get your ballot in. Also, make sure you tweet out what you voted for using the hashtag KISS Awards. We'd love to see. Obviously, I can't see who everybody's voting, but we want the Twitterverse to see who you're voting for as well.
But yeah, before we jump into the show, I just want to say thank you again, Jeremy, for holding down the fort while I was out. I know to many of you listening, it probably seems like I intentionally tried to miss the entirety of Tag League. And I can't say that it wasn't a happy coincidence necessarily, because it kind of was nice. But in all actuality, it was because I was prepping for my Series 6, which I passed. So I am now officially a licensed, registered representative with FINRA. And that opens a lot of doors within my current role in the financial services industry, and potential other roles down the line. I do have 2 other licenses I'll be pursuing this year. So, that might open potential opportunity for other people to guest hosts. We'll see. But I'm hoping to tighten it up a little bit with my schedule so that it doesn't interfere quite as much this time around with the show. But yeah, looking forward to that. And thank you to everybody that we had as a guest in recent times. You guys were all fantastic. Really loved hearing from you guys. MJ does PR, Ethan Black, Karen, all you guys. Great job, and I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, we got lots of stuff to talk about this week, from all the fallout coming from Tag League and the Wrestle Kingdom press conference, Sasha Banks news. Before we jump into that, we do have to crown the November match of the month and wrestler of the month. Been holding off on this for when you came back.
You changed it.
Oh, the wrestler of the month?
Yeah.
I was going back and forth between several teams.
It's funny because as I was watching the World Tag League Finals, the team that you listed, now keep in mind I didn't see any of this, so I wasn't gonna say anything. I was just gonna defer to your judgment because you are a well and reasoned raider. But I was thinking that this team, I was like, maybe we need to have an off-air discussion and see, does it need to be this junior Bullet Club team or does it need to be this heavyweight Aussie Open team? It's hard to tell. And I'm surprised you changed it without us even talking. It's like we're on the same label.
Yeah, actually, before you even saw the Bay in Austin, I also had Catch 2-2 on there at one point. So there was just several. Overall, this tag league was a really good tag league, both from the junior and heavyweight side, especially with all the new faces in it. But yeah, without further ado, the November wrestlers of the month: Mark Davis, Kyle Fletcher, Aussie Open. These guys.
Oi.
They made their New Japan debut in November, coming over for this World Tag League Tour. They're also on the ending of Battle Autumn and pretty much just, cleaned house in the World Tag League. They got a big super push here, pretty much almost undefeated throughout the Tag League run and throughout this month, and pretty much giving most of the heavyweight teams the best matches of the tournament. The LIJ match, TMDK match. There was just really great action there with Aussie Open, Fletcher and Davis really coming in and elevating the tag team division.
Yeah, as I said before, I didn't see any of this, but I'm not surprised. Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis are both really, really talented guys. I've said for a while now, I consider them a top 2, top 3 tag team in the world. Pretty much I have for a long time, and they went out there and they showed exactly why they have the reputation that they do and really stepped their game up in a lot of different ways. And, even just on this finals night, what I saw from them was indicative of a team that's so incredibly well-rounded, just the hard-hitting style, the crisp, fast-paced action. It's just such a hybrid mixture of like brawling and Southern style tag and high flying and mixture of all this athleticism. They almost feel sort of in the same vein as like War Machine, but mixed with like the Midnight Express. You know what I mean? Like they're just really, really, really good. I think that they wrestle the way FTR wishes they wrestle. Or the way they claim that they wrestle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah. As far as the match of the month, we did not discuss this, but I'm going to agree with Jeremy here because up until Tag League, this was my match of the month, and I can't imagine there was anything that occurred during the World Tag League as good as it was to usurp this as the crowning match of the month. And without further ado, it is Will Ospreay versus Tetsuya Naito from Battle Autumn in Osaka, which was just an incredible, incredible match. And we threw all the praise on it when it occurred, and it's still deserving of it today.
Yeah, definitely great matchup there for the IWGP US title, and the second matchup between Ospreay and Naito this year. It's a really great match. If you've not seen that, definitely recommend going back and watching that matchup.
Yeah, so let's jump into night 17, which was the Tag League finals for both the Super Junior Tag League and the World Tag League. This was coming to us from December 14th in Sendai Sun Plaza Center. And Jeremy, I'm going to kind of guide us through this. And I got to tell you, I just watched this. I know it occurred a few days ago. It's been a crazy week for me. Wasn't able to get to it till today. And so it's fresh in my mind, but also I was kind of spoiled on it. So I knew what to expect going into it. And because I was spoiled, I saw how much disappointment there was online to everybody that saw it. And now I have joined you all in that. And I have recently partaken in that disappointment because I had to sit through like a 3.5 hour pay-per-view that I was not, very high on or quite fond of. So I'm right there with you guys.
Yeah, it wasn't not the best way to conclude, which was a very good tour. And I know some of these were kind of on paper. You saw the card, and it's like, yeah, some multi-man matches can kind of giving some guys from the tour some matchups, and it should be fun. But then the show got going, and it was just like kind of a drag. Like not a lot was going on until you got further down the card.
Okay, cool. Well, We started the night off with Sauce Hearts, the team of Alex Zane and El Lindemann, as they defeated the Young Lion team of Kosei Fujita and Ryohei Oiwa, 6 minutes and 6 seconds. Jeremy, what were your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, thought it was a fine opening matchup here. Zane and Lindemann, one of the teams that really impressed on the junior side of things, gelled really well together, great chemistry. I would say probably in at least the top 5 of the junior tag teams from the tour. And, mixing up there with the 2 young lions, Vegeta and Oiwa. So essentially, it was a nice little match to give some shine to Sauce Hearts and kind of a little, pat on the back. Thank you for coming out. And yeah, of course, they defeat Vegeta and Oiwa.
Yeah, I thought this was a pretty enjoyable opener with the Young Lions, getting all their hope spots in and kind of just feeding and bumping for this sort of eclectic but cohesive team between Alex Zane and El Lindemann, 2 guys that don't seem to have a lot in common on the surface, very different demeanors, very different styles, but because of their recent teaming in Glate and then, Lindemann dyeing his hair red.
Got to make sure they match.
I guess they match. They're a team now. So it was kind of cool to see them in action.
Yeah, we had a couple questions here. First from JNCOS 2001.
That's Jinkos.
Jinkos 2001.
Jinkos, fool.
Where do you see Alex Zane fitting in the 2023 NJPW scene? Going heavyweight? Possible G1 run? Tagging more?
Well, if he keeps eating Taco Bell the way that he claims that he is, he's going to have no choice but to eventually move up to heavyweight. I mean, I think technically he already is a heavyweight, but that's not a conversation the IWGP committee seems to be willing to have at this point in time.
Somebody needs to check the scales. There's some funny business going on. Get our man Aaron Nova on the case. Bring the scale out. Let's see what's going on here.
I would say shout out to Aaron Nova, but he's not he doesn't watch New Japan. He's not listening to this podcast.
But yeah, I mean, I would definitely obviously love to continue to see Zane in New Japan next year. Like Josh is saying, they could swing him heavyweight. I mean, he has the size and the frame, but also he wrestles more of a junior style, very kind of dynamic, fast wrestler. So I understand and want to keep him in the junior division. We saw him do some open weight stuff in the TV title tournament. So I think he's a guy you can kind of throw him anywhere. He can be in a New Japan Cup. He can be in a G1 if they want to go that route. Junior, if they continue to bring Lindemann in, you can do Sauce Hearts as one of the challengers for the junior tag titles going through. He can be a junior challenger. So there's a lot of options for Zane next year.
Yeah, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, so please don't take this the wrong way when I say this, but he's sort of like a creator wrestler. And I don't mean that like in a generic sense, but I mean, when you have like your guy and you're doing story mode with him and you've just got to that point where like the storyline could really branch a lot of different ways depending on what choices you make.
Yeah.
That's sort of where he's at. And I mean, I could see a lot of different ways they could go with this. I mean, if they want to tag him up with some heavyweight and kind of usher him into the heavyweight scene that way, that's a possibility. Like you mentioned, there's the junior route. I would say if you're going to keep him junior long term, it's probably best, in my opinion, that you just don't even do New Japan Cup whatsoever. Just stay in the junior ranks, go through a super junior, go for the title, go for the junior tag league titles. And maybe once you've gotten some of those accolades under your belt, maybe think about, moving up, because that is a division that could really use his help. But if you are thinking about moving him up to heavyweight down the road, then maybe you put him in a New Japan Cup, see how he fits in, and maybe consider, bringing him up. And there's quite a few titles in the heavyweight ranks that he could go after, whether it's the Never title, the US title, the Strong title, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The TV title.
Yeah. Lots of options for Zane. Also a question from Hawaiian Punch BV, with Alex Zane rejoining Strong Hearts, sort of, and El Lindemann completing another tour here. Do you think we'll be seeing more of them? How would you like to see T-Hawk and El Lindemann versus Catch 2-2? Impact Trey Miguel used to be a part of Strong Hearts, so maybe he can just join Austin and Bay on the same flights over. Do you think Gato would be able to convince Shima to put over Akira when Shima refused to do so over at All Japan?
It's a pretty loaded question. There's a lot of stuff there. So, I'm not as familiar with the whole kayfabe of the strong hearts and everything like that. But I wouldn't be opposed to Trey Miguel getting involved with New Japan. He's a guy that I'm pretty high on and surprised that they haven't gotten him involved in some fashion up till now. But I'd be all for that one way or the other. Um, as far as like convincing Shima to put over, I guess he's talking about Francesco Akira, right?
Yeah.
No, I do not see New Japan and Shima or New Japan and Gato convincing Shima to do a JOB to Francesco Akira under any circumstances unless they decide to skyrocket Francesco Akira suddenly out of nowhere and make him like an ace type player in the junior heavyweight division. I mean, this is a guy who, like, the only person he's jobbed to in New Japan is Okada.
Yeah. I agree with you. I'd love to see Trey Miguel in the junior division. I think he'd be a fun addition to New Japan. T-Hawk and Lindemann versus Catch 2-2. Yeah, I mean, anybody versus Catch 2-2 I think would be a lot of fun. I mean, I think T-Hawk's more on the heavyweight side of things, though.
That's how I feel about him, too.
Yeah, but yeah, Strong Hearts versus Catch 2-2 would definitely be a ton of fun. And yeah, I don't think Shima's going to be jobbing to the Fireball anytime soon.
Great. So second match of the night, we had the team of TMDK, Mad Mikey Nichols and Shane Hayes. They defeated the team of Kevin Knight and Kushida 6 minutes and 12 seconds. Do we have an official name for the team of Kevin Knight and Kushida yet?
No, I don't think they have their official team name yet.
Okay. Well, they came out, and I mean, they're dressed in the same gear. Obviously, while I was gone, they decided to graduate Kevin Knight. So that's kind of one of the big developing stories of this tag league. But this was kind of interesting in the fact that they put one of the more, I guess, successful heavyweight tag teams against one of the kayfabe underperforming junior tag teams of the tour.
Yeah, I think it's just a great. They're just trying to get some experience and shine for Kevin Knight. I think get him in there with some experienced workers. We got the whole edict from, Bushiroad. We need younger stars. We need to, elevate or escalate the young lion process. And so that's what we're seeing here. Kevin Knight graduating mid-tour and now being in there with guys like TMDK and Kushida as his partner, getting a lot of experience here.
Yeah, the thing I noticed is obviously we already know how athletic Kevin Knight is. We've seen it on display going back to the early days when he first came into New Japan. And obviously TMDK, even though I haven't seen a lot of them since they have reformed, it's always good to see them wrestle. And I heard they had a great tag league. But
yeah, they did.
It was interesting to see a young greenhorn like Kevin Knight sort of outshine one of New Japan's most prolific juniors in Kushida. I mean, not to take anything away from Kushida, he definitely was still just as good as he ever has been, but most of the big exciting spots for the junior tag team were built around Kevin Knight in this tag team match, and I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah, I think that, that they're really trying to push Kevin Knight and get him over and give him a lot of the spotlight. In all their tag matches, I feel like there was, spots designed to elevate him and spotlight him and get him over. And that's what they've been doing this whole tour. So it was cool, to see him get the opportunity, kind of get the shine here in this matchup. Of course, TMDK eventually did slow things down and, cut the ring off and slowed the pace down and isolated Kevin Knight and to hit the tank buster and get the win there. And hilarious, Shane Hayes was like, did we just win the junior tag league? After he pinned them.
That's pretty funny. So one thing we do got to touch base here on is obviously this is going to be covered in the news, but we have a question concerning it. So just last night on Monday Night Raw, the leader or the current leader of TMDK, Jonah, formerly known as Jonah Rock, formerly known as Bronson Reed from his time in NXT, he returned to WWE and made his debut doing a run-in during a ladder match between What's the dude's name?
Dexter Loomis.
Yeah, the guy that hates me. Dexter Loomis and Dexter Loomis and The Miz, they had some sort of money ladder match, and Bronson Reed came in, and he's a heavy for Miz, which is no surprise because, I mean, we were all speculating for quite a while about the future of Jonah, and ever since he lost to when did he lose to Okada? Was that at Battle Autumn?
That was a Declaration of Power.
Declaration of Power. Okay, so he's kind of been MIA ghost since then. You know, I assume there was probably discussions and that sort of thing going on. But we do have a question here from Les Commission 74252. He says, with Jonah's return to the WWE, where does TMDK go from here? Hasty Nichols have a future when they return to Japan, but what will happen with Bad Dude Tito? Do you guys see him getting pushed on Strong to the openweight title scene? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned we've been speculating on where Jonah was going to end up after the Okada match, and it does lead some questions to what's going to happen to TMDK. With Hayes and Nichols, I mean, I think they're a great team, and we saw that in the tag league, so they continue to run them as a team, and the company seems to be high on Bad Dude Tito, so I don't see why he would be out of anything. I mean, they probably won't be pushed maybe as hard if they had Jonah, but they could be a cool little trios unit. They could win the Never six-man titles. You can have Hayes and Nichols, doing tag league stuff, and Bad Dude Tito's also featured on Strong a lot. So yeah, he can be, getting an open weight match. He had a match with Kenta this past week and seems to be getting a lot of big matches on New Japan Strong.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily what the future of TMDK as a faction is. Obviously, TMDK, the tag team, Hayes and Nichols, the world's their oyster. They've got a lot of options in front of them. The question everyone is really asking is what happens with Bad Dude Tito? And he's a very talented guy that I think has really made a lot of he's built a lot of trust from management in the company. That's not to say that they're going to find the perfect thing for him. This could hypothetically be a detrimental thing to him. He could be a casualty of circumstance. However, I do think that they're going to make every effort to still include him in the company if at all possible. So I'm optimistic about it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be an opportunity to elevate him. Maybe he becomes the leader of the group, even though Shane Hayes did tweet out today and said that there are no leaders in TMDK, but they will be looking for a new champion.
I do have a question, though. Well, I guess my question is this. Do we have other questions about this, or is now a good time to voice our opinions about some of the discourse I've seen online concerning the Jonah situation?
I don't think there was any other questions on this.
All right. Let me just say this. I understand that a lot of you that are listening, and not all of you, because I think we have a pretty smart fan base, but or listenership, but a lot of people that listen to this show and other shows are very passionate about Puroresu, wrestling in general, but more importantly, New Japan. And they almost sort of identify it because it's the home promotion that they base their fandom into. Just understand, at the end of the day, when everything is said and done, as much as you are passionate about New Japan, and trust me, you're talking to two guys that are very passionate about it.
Yeah.
We devote a lot of our time to it. New Japan is not you, and we are not New Japan. New Japan is a company that you are a fan of, a product of, that is comprised of a lot of talented wrestlers who have real lives, who have real families, and are in this as a profession to make as much money as they possibly can while risking their bodies and their health and their life. I understand that some of you, or many of you online, and I've seen a lot of prominent fans and people in the community that are very angry or frustrated that Jonah, after being pushed heavily, decided to jump to WWE and felt insulted. This kind of reminds me of a very similar situation we're going to discuss here in a little bit with one Sasha Banks. Think about how foolish the fans of WWE, who are diehard stans, have sounded in criticizing her for her decision to leave and seek greener pasture for what was the best decision in her life professionally. Now, I understand some of you are probably listening to that and saying, yeah, but the company over there was mistreating her and they rolled out the red carpet for Jonah. Okay, but I don't know, guys. I'm a little bit older than maybe some of you. I'm in my mid 30s and I lived through, a territory era, and I lived through, a robust, vibrant wrestling scene prior to WWE's monopoly. And we used to live in an era where guys would come in for a tour, they come in for 8 months, make a name, do a program with a top guy, get a win, give the win back, and move on. That's what he did here. I mean, there's nothing really to complain about. Jonah came in, they treated him great. He treated the company great in return. He did a job on the way out. He did a big favor for Okada. Okada did a big favor for him. And now he's going to make more money. And if you cared about him before, you should care about him now and think that it's okay for him to go to a place that's willing to pay him more money for what he is doing with his life. It's not something to get upset about. If anything, you should be glad for the time he had here and glad that now that he's leaving, it does create opportunity for others to move into his potential spot. I am a little bit embarrassed by some of the discourse where people are, looking like some fucking freaks talking about ungrateful, blah, 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 and trying to embarrass the guy. And it's like, you guys are fucking marks. And I mean, I'm not saying that in the fun term way. I'm talking about in the embarrassing way where you sound like a fucking idiot. Don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. Don't be that person. Just be glad. It's wrestling. Let them make their money.
Yeah, I see a lot of people who are upset that, man, that they let Jonah beat Okada in the G1. There are other people who need to beat Okada. Why would they have Jonah do this? And it's exactly like you said. I mean, he did business. He did get the win over Okada. He gave the win back. He didn't leave, he didn't beat Okada and just leave. Like
right.
Are the last sights of Jonah in an NJPW ring is him eating a Rainmaker and getting pinned. Like that's the end of his run there. And, the whole thing is, a lot of people are so mad about that. And it's like, well, it's almost a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
Yep.
Had Okada beaten Jonah in the G1, people would have been like, oh, it's so predictable. Of course, Okada wins. Jonah's getting over. They don't let the hot, younger, newer guy get the big win.
Don't they know that this guy is on Triple H's radar and they're not even making an attempt to try and keep him?
Yeah, he's undefeated on New Japan Strong. Like he had all this momentum. Why they have Okada beat him? You would have had all those excuses. But now that Okada, lost in the G1, now there's an uproar. When to me, I thought it was a fresh, unpredictable outcome.
Exciting.
Yeah, it made the G1 excited. It made it unpredictable because, of course, people are like, LOL, Okada wins. But yeah, it was like nobody was expecting Jonah to win, and Jonah won it. He got over. He had the crowds breaking the law, oohing and awing. The tsunami or torpedo, whatever it's called, splash got over. He got over. He added a lot of intrigue to that block and to the overall G1. And yeah, that result of him beating Okada was one of the most intriguing things in that block.
Here's the other thing too, is like all throughout the pandemic era, as Tony Khan and Vince McMahon were signing up everybody, the fans over here in New Japan were complaining, oh, these guys, they're just letting everyone else go. They're not making any attempts. Then they get a big star like Jonah, and they do make an attempt. And unfortunately, they weren't able to hold on to him long term, obviously. But if they hadn't made some sort of effort to keep the guy and to treat him well, then everyone would have been saying, oh, well, it's just like the rest of the pandemic era. There's tons of names and talent out there, and they didn't try to get him. Well, they did try to get Jonah. Unfortunately, the money bags in Bushi Road are just not as deep as they are in Titan Sports. And that's just a fact of life. And it's something that we all just kind of have to understand and accept. But I think it was admirable that they made an attempt. The only criticism that I think is valid is that you could have hypothetically maybe tried to, and I saw this online. I don't remember who. I think it was some Kenta account, but they made mention of like, what if they had brought in like say, oh my god, Carl Fredericks and pushed him to the moon and had him beat Okada. That's a guy that would be probably sticking around, and then you'd be paying dividends into the company long term into the future, as opposed to a guy that's just going to walk. And I do think there is something to that. But again, it's like you mentioned, Jeremy, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. If they don't make an attempt to keep a big star like that, then they look like fools. And they tried their best. It didn't work out. We got a great set of matches and a great program out of it. But I think these fans, some of their vitriol, some of their reactions are kind of cringe and kind of embarrassing. And I don't generally think of New Japan fans as that audience. Or we, this show, we are a little bit sheltered from that sect of the New Japan audience.
Well, I think also there's a lot of like the quote unquote, casual fans, or maybe people who kind of pop into New Japan's for big shows. And so I saw a ton of people who I normally don't see tweeting out about New Japan that are like, oh, he beat Okada and now he's gone. And it's like,
oh, they just want to dunk on the company.
Right. And don't get me wrong, of course, we love dunking on WWE any opportunity we get. But I'm like, I just don't get the full hate here. Like, Jonah had a good run, did business. He's making the best decision now for his family. And it's fine, guys. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. It's nothing to get so butthurt about. And you guys look butthurt. Don't be butthurt like that. You look like Sasha stans or FDSers. Like, it's fucking embarrassing.
Hey,
anyways, let's move on.
Don't get the Sasha stans mad, okay? We're going to be dealing with them for the next few months now. I want them to,
you know what's funny?
Subscribe, download.
I don't really know about the Sasha stans because I'm not on Twitter like that. But, I'm a big Sasha fan. So I guess maybe I'm one of them. I don't know. Maybe I'm one of the stans. But third match of the night, we had the United Empire team of Aaron Henare, Francesco Akira, Great O'Khan, and TJP, accompanied by Gideon Gray, as they defeated the team of Alex Coughlin, Flying Tiger, which is Robbie Eagles and Tiger Mask, and Gabriel Kidd, 7 minutes and 36 seconds.
Yeah, again, another really just quick tag match here, highlighting some of the teams that were featured in both the Heavyweight Tag League and Junior Tag League. Ultimately, United Empire, obviously the established faction unit here, got the win, continued their dominance. TJP pinning Tiger Mask to get the win, so keeping the junior tag champs dominant going into Tokyo Dome season, and then a nice win for Henare and Great O'Khan. Flying Tiger, I believe Robbie tweeted out that this was their last time teaming together. So it seems like next year Robbie will be focused more on singles. And then Kidd and Coughlin, we saw them kind of finally get their act together a little bit towards the end of the league. So it is a possibility that we see them team more next year. They did call out House of Torture for the Never 6-man titles after beating them in the league. So who knows, maybe New Year's Dash or some point in the beginning of the year, we'll see an LA Dojo trio challenge House of Torture.
I don't know how it needs to happen, when it needs to happen, where it needs to happen, but I need to get this Alex Coughlin versus Cesaro match going, because these guys are fucking animals. And I need to see those. I need to see those two Rams lock horns. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, Alex Coughlin, just his whole deadlift suplexing he does, where he's on the mat. Sitting down, he deadlifts the opponent all the way up, gets him up in the vertical suplex position, and drops him with the suplex. It's just absolutely incredible.
He's a fucking freak. Not only is he like strong, but he's like cut to shreds right now. I don't even know how he does it. Yeah, man, this was, like you said, just a fine little nice match that just kind of showcased probably what some of the best stuff was from all these guys. I will say this: Dave was giving 2 and less scores to all of these preview tags,
bro.
And the scores on Cage Match were like sub 5. Now, keep in mind, I'm not telling you these were great, but 2s? This was crazy. This stuff was all. If nothing more. Your standard run-of-the-mill undercard road to style tag team matches. It was all in that 3-ish range. There was nothing bad on this portion of the show. It just wasn't quite exhilarating or exciting, but I don't understand those scores.
And they weren't designed to be exciting. It was pretty much get in, get out, give the guys shine who they want to give shine to, and move it along. This was a long show. And Dave, he's so checked out of what is happening in New Japan. And based off of his ratings and based off the stuff he says on Observer Radio, you can tell he's only kind of coming in for the big show. He didn't watch this whole tournament. He's talking about teams and matches. He's talking about, Aussie Open. They didn't really do anything with those guys. They came in. I'm like, bro, like,
what are you talking about,
like,
bro?
dude,
they see it.
They super elevated them. Yes, I get that everybody wanted to win the tournament, but they were wrecking every team in the tournament, giving every team almost their best matchup. Like, I feel like elevated their stock, and they got over on this tour with the Japanese audience.
I was listening to some other podcasts, and some of the guests that they had on their show were like, these guys need to slow down. They're like, I get that they're trying to make a name for themselves in New Japan. They're like, but some of these shows were held in places that looked like emptied out warehouses with like a few hundred people, and they're like, Aussie Open's out here killing themselves in the middle of like nobody in the middle of the afternoon. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like them. Like they're like, we're gonna have the greatest run in the history of World Tag League.
Yeah, I mean, these guys have been waiting 2-3 years to finally get to Japan. I mean, they were supposed to be in Japan, I believe, in 2020. Dunkzilla got injured, then we had a pandemic. So yeah, finally these guys come in and they're making the most of the opportunities. Like we talk about, when you get that shot, you got to go for it. You got to make a name for yourself. And that's exactly
Kyle
what
Fletcher was talking online about his regiment throughout the year, that he like timed his bulking and cutting phases so that it would all convalesce during World Tag League. So he'd be at his most optimum strength, but also his most shredded physically, because for them, this was their like Wrestle Kingdom moment, was World Tag League.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dave Meltzer, not watching World Tag League. You can get the fuck out of here. Oh man. So the next match of the night, we had Suzuki-gun, the team of Doki, Lance Archer, Minoru Suzuki, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru, taking on and defeating the team of House of Torture, Dick Togo, Evil, Sho, Yujiro Takahashi, 4 minutes, 54 seconds. And leading into this match, there had been a major announcement made by Minoru Suzuki that there was a major development and exciting news revolving around Suzuki-gun on this evening. And they went out there, they took on the team that everybody hates in House of Torture, murked those fucking fools in 4 minutes, 54 seconds. In, out, short, sweet, completely dominated them, got them out of here. And then, the news everyone was waiting for, a lot of people thought it was going to be a new leader maybe being announced, a new member being introduced, some sort of gimmick change. Nobody knew what it was. And instead, we got a heartfelt speech by Minoru Suzuki explaining to us that as a team, they have decided they are all going to part ways at the end of this calendar year.
Yeah, and so, their final matchups will be on the Road to Tokyo Dome shows, which we'll go over here in a few minutes. So, definitely a big emotional moment here. Suzuki-gun calling it a day at the end of 2022, and we had a ton of questions here. So I'm just going to read them all, and then we can have kind of a general discussion and our thoughts on this. So first, Greg Starts on Twitter says, what is Lance Archer's beef with children?
Fuck them kids.
I don't know if you saw he used a kid as a battering ram.
No.
Actually, never mind. That was Gabe Kidd. But Archer was he was back to scaring kids on the tour.
He's on that Michael Jordan. Fuck them kids.
Raisin Falcon says, what do you think will happen with Suzuki-gun? Will a new faction form under ZSJ, or will they go their separate ways? Okay, 890 says, do you think it was time for Suzuki-gun to disband? Do you think a new faction will take its place, or will Suzuki-gun minus Suzuki stay together? Skywalker 3030 says, what do you think Suzuki-gun core members should do once disbanded? What other faction shakeups would you like to see? Any new factions? And Les Commission 7252 says, any emotional thoughts ran through you guys' minds when Suzuki decided to disband Suzuki-gun? It wasn't for me at first, but later on that day, reading through the final matches as a group and the big 8-man tag on the final Road to Tokyo Dome show, some tears started to run down. It doesn't feel right for the group to go their separate ways. And MJ Does PR says, what are some of your favorite or most memorable Suzuki-gun moments, matches over the years? And can you wildly speculate on the future of the remaining members?
Wow, that's a fucking lot. Well, I mean, this was big news, and it's a huge shakeup, and it's something that definitely resonated with our listeners and our audience. So thank you guys for the questions. Yeah, as far as what's going to happen, I mean, I have to think initially that if they are hypothetically going to go a different way and they're going to rebrand Suzuki-gun into something else and keep some of the members together in some sort of manner, they're doing a really good job right now throwing us off the scent, because we just had Takataichi 50th anniversary festival this past Monday, and they made sure to tell everybody that this would, since Suzuki-gun is completely breaking up, that's the last Takataichi Union produce show that's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
Which also makes me wonder, like, is that really true? Because they seem to be getting bigger and better every time. That's a little sus, but they're making it seem like that's the final time they're ever going to be together. They cut all these emotional promos at the end of that show.
Yeah, Taichi is saying that, next year it's going to be Lonely Goon.
Yeah, Lonely Goon. That's pretty much every day of my life. No, I'm just playing. Sad. I don't know, Jeremy. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, a lot to unpack here. Obviously, definitely a very shocking moment with Suzuki announcing that. And, faction shakeups, I think, are things that we've always asked for. I mean, Suzuki-gun's been around since we've been doing this show and a little bit before that. So that the faction had a long run. They even, had an exodus where they got, forced to go to Pro Wrestling Noah. Then they kind of came back and were running stuff in New Japan for a while. So definitely a fundamental faction in New Japan in the last decade. But I think the key thing here is, we're starting to see the changing of the guard. The winds of change are blowing in New Japan Pro Wrestling. We're starting to see, the young lions come back from excursion and getting pushed, like Ren Narita and Shota Umino. We're seeing guys like Kevin Knight graduate in the middle of excursions and started to get a push. So, things are changing. They're trying to change things up. A lot of things that people complain about with New Japan when they look at the roster has been, it's the same old. We have the same factions, the same teams, the same matchups. There's no new fresh matchups. Well, in order to get fresh matchups and fresh teams, some factions have to break up and things have to be shaken up. So that's what we're getting here. As far as what's going to happen with all the members, I mean, I have no idea. Like you were saying, Josh,
it's too much.
It could be a swerve, and it could be a thing where it's like Suzuki decided that we're breaking up, but we really didn't want to break up until they jump him Road to Tokyo Dome, or it's just an avenue to you give Sabre. People want Sabre to win the world title. Maybe it's your chance to push Sabre as a main eventer, to push Desperado as the top junior. Give Doki a shot at some stuff. Like, it's an opportunity to kind of have guys tell some new stories, go in different directions, have some new feuds. They can be in different alignments. There's so many options. It's kind of hard to fully guess like what's going to happen with each and every guy.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I dislike about this, I do think it's exciting and it opens up a lot of doors of possibility, like you mentioned, Jeremy. The reason I'm not a fan of it to a certain degree is the certain sort of unity and family that seems to exist within Suzuki-gun.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've noticed this, Jeremy, although they do all have their own roles and responses and relationship to Minoru Suzuki, when he's not around, because he hasn't been around that much over the last 2 to 3 years. He's there are times where he's off the tours, or he's in the States, or he's on excursions. When dad's not around, the boys tend to play. And there is a different vibe between Kanemaru, Doki, Taichi, Zach, all these guys. They seem to have this certain sort of bond that it's still there when Suzuki's not around, when he's around, but it's kind of even more pronounced when he's not around. And I do wonder if long-term it's not the best. I mean, I know we talk about teams breaking up, but if you wanted my honest opinion, I think the two teams that are, even though they're actually younger in kayfabe, they are not as fresh as Suzuki-gun has been over the past few years, and that would be Chaos and Bullet Club. And I think both of those teams have kind of run their course, run their route, and I would be fine if they completely were disbanded and the members were dispersed into whatever else you want to do. You're the booker, you decide. I think most of the guys in Suzuki-gun benefit quite a bit from being in Suzuki-gun. And I do find it troubling to figure out where they may or may not land as a group, which is why I am right now, and I could be wrong, I'm inclined to think that either at Wrestle Kingdom or more likely New Year's Dash, we do get some sort of surprise, maybe not all the members, but of some sort of new unit that is birthed out of Suzuki-gun, especially considering the turbulent history of Suzuki-gun as it came out of Kojima-gun when they turned their back on Satoshi Kojima and anointed Minoru Suzuki as the new leader. I wouldn't be surprised if we see an actual ousting of Minoru Suzuki from the group and maybe a new leader anointed. And the two guys that seem the most likely would be either Taichi or Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, there's also, a lot of rumors of Suzuki doing more Pro Wrestling Noah next year. I believe they have a show coming up where there's an ex mystery partner in a 6-man tag where a lot of people think he could be the mystery partner for that. So obviously, if he's going to work, more Noah next year, and we've kind of seen Suzuki being phased out. He's an older guy. They're trying to make room for younger guys. I can see that. And, the interesting thing to, his comments, he said, Suzuki-gun is just an army. That's all it ever was. And like you mentioned, it seems more of like a family with guys like Saber and Taichi and Despy and Doki. Like we saw the great stories they've been telling on the Takataichi Mania shows, and there's even some of the backstage promos between those guys throughout the years. So yeah, it could be this thing of like, it's our family. To you, we were just your army. And then, New Year's Dash, like they, beat this man. And then it's, Saber-gun or Taichi-gun or a completely new, different name or whatever.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Again, they might not go that way. They might be like tipping their hand and telling it. Oh, also, I guess Road to Tokyo Dome is another opportunity. They're having that final match on the last night, supposed to be very heartfelt, supposed to be confetti or snow coming, What if it's not a happy merriment moment? What if it is the dissolution of Minoru Suzuki and the ousting of him from the fucking company and something new being born? That's also on the table. So it is very fun. It's very exciting. I don't want to wildly speculate on everybody because there's a lot of members in the group, but it's going to be interesting to say the least. Also, rumors of, Jake Lee leaving All Japan and people kind of guesstimating that maybe he somehow lands in Suzuki-gun or what is remaining of it after its dissolution. So a lot is on the table.
Yeah.
After that, let's move on. So the next match of the night, we have the fifth tag match. We have LIJ, the team of Bushi, Sanada, Naito, and Titan, and they defeated the Bebop tag team, Tanahashi and Toriano, as they teamed up with the Wild Hips tag team of Clark Connors and Ryosuke Taguchi, 8 minutes and 40 seconds. And Jeremy, I got to tell you, thought this was a low point of the evening.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of just a nothing matchup here. Again, you had, Bushi and Titan, who were in the junior tag leagues, not a Naito, who were in the heavyweight tag league against Tanahashi and Yana, who are from the Heavyweight Tag League, and then Wild Hips from the Junior Tag League. And yeah, it was just kind of a nothing match there. It felt like the LIJ team wasn't really trying really hard, especially, Naito. They were just kind of like, this was a match. There's really no story here. Like, these are just leftover parts from the other teams who haven't got matches. Let's throw them together. I guess in hindsight, it's a little bit of a teasing between what would happen between Naito and Tanahashi for Wrestle Kingdom. But besides that, there wasn't really any other story elements here, and it was just kind of a match.
We'll get to it, but I feel like I kind of told people that that's what was going to happen, and I got the receipts for it. So just saying. Yeah, and we'll talk more about these teams. We got a quick little recap we're going to do on the different tag leagues. We're not going to go in depth, but I'll ask you some questions when we get done here. Sixth match of the night, we have the Bull Club team of Gato, Jay White, Taiji Ishimori as they defeated the team of Okada, Master Wato, and Tama Tonga, 10 minutes and 51 seconds.
Yeah, so I'll see building up here the big IWGP World Heavyweight title match with Jay White and Kazuchika Okada, continuing the rivalry between Bullet Club and Tama Tonga, and also getting a preview of the junior match with two of the four guys, Master Wato and Ishimori, in there. The end of the matchup, you had Switchblade Jay White hitting the Blade Runner on Wato and Okada. And then he dragged over Ishimori's body onto Wato while he put his foot on Okada. Ref count the 3 count, so Bullet Club wins, and you get a visual, even though they weren't legal men, a visual pinfall of Jay White over Okada, which leaves more speculation of, is Jay going to win? Because Jay has Okada's number. He has the most wins in their rivalry. So again, it's kind of leading to that angle of like, all right, Jay has all the momentum. He's going to, easily beat Okada come Wrestle Kingdom.
So here's what happened. I did watch this whole show, but my girlfriend was down the street taking photos of the sky because she's a photographer and she does weird shit like that. And she gave me a call and was like, hey, there's a Boston Terrier out here. I need your help to catch him. He's trying to run away from me. And I was like, what the fuck? And I looked at the screen and the match was going on. And so far it hadn't really caught me. And I thought to myself, I only have a limited amount of time before we have to record the show. I could either pause it and push the recording time out even further than I already have, or go help rescue this dog and let the match fucking play. Because to me, it didn't matter. And that tells you everything you need to know about how I feel about the build to Okada and Jay White for the world title in the main event of the Tokyo Dome. I didn't watch probably a good half of this match. I went to go rescue some sort of Boston Terrier or short nose snouted dog. I don't know. We saved it. But when I came back, match was done and we were on to the next chapter.
Well, Josh, I mean, this is your last chance to see Jay White in Japan for the year because he's not going to be on the road to Tokyo Dome.
That's terrible. This is amongst. Man. I wanted at one point to be like, this is amongst the worst main event builds and just hyped main events, at least in the last 5 to 6 years. But we're getting to the territory when it comes to January 4th Tokyo Domes that it's amongst the worst ever of all time. So that's where we're at. Anyways, speaking of terrible, let's move on to the 7th match of the night.
Oh my gosh.
We had the never openweight title match between Bright Lights, Carl Anderson, and unfortunately, the defending champion successfully defended his title against Young Hikuleo, accompanied by Jado, in a 16 second fucking nothing match. And Carl Anderson is still the never openweight champion.
Yeah, the news broke pretty much right before this match that Anderson was going to be at Wrestle Kingdom, which also made people think, all right, he's retaining and he's going to face probably Tama Tonga. And yeah, this was one of the worst never openweight title matches I've ever seen since watching New Japan and reviewing it. Carl Anderson put out one of the laziest performances I've ever seen since watching and reviewing New Japan. And this just did no favors for anybody. It made Hikuleo look like a geek. And he's been, doing some good work, and he's an up-and-coming young guy. And, before we thought this was going to be an opportunity to kind of put him over and elevate him. But to me, it kind of made him look like a geek, with Anderson just kind of doing some lazy leg work to quote unquote chop the big man down. And then, having the shenanigans there towards the end and eating a gun stun and losing. But yeah, it was a pretty nothing match. It was an awful showing here, which is supposed to be, one of the big highlight matches on this card. It was one of the only title matches on this card. And, I get it. Carl, his main, gig now is WWE, and obviously he doesn't want to get hurt and mess up anything that's going on there. But man, like, he could have given a little bit more effort. Like, how, actually try to get Hikuleo over in this, even though he's losing, like, get him over, like, put some work in. But he did not do that. And, post-match, he's like, you think I came to Japan to do a jizzob? Pulling the whole Carney thing. It's just awful.
Yeah, man. I mean, I get it from a certain standpoint. There's probably a thought process that it's like, okay, he agreed to do 2 dates, right? And it's funny, for all the hullabaloo about how terrible Voices of Wrestling are and how much of a liars they are and how they don't have sources. They said months and months and months ago that this guy was in discussion to work 2 final dates for New Japan. And lo and behold, the guy's working 2 dates for New Japan before he drops the belt. So, tip of the hat to those guys, Joe and Rich. That being said, I think the thought process here is like, okay, if he's going to work a final date in the Dome, which is something that I said on the air many times in the past, that makes the most sense. But I did think he was going to drop the belt to Hikuleo. I was thinking, the whole youth movement, they're trying to escalate and move these guys forward as quickly as possible. We saw the favor that they had Yujiro do for Hikuleo, which I'm kind of calling that into question now with this most recent result. I was thinking that they just have the WWE guy, Carl Anderson, come in, do a quick job to Hikuleo on the big screen or on the big show in the Tokyo Dome, and that be that. Instead, I think the thinking was, we teased that we're going to do that at Tag League. He ends up beating him in a shitty match. And I think this is probably the way he pitched it to them. I'm going to stink the joint out because they already hate me. They see me as a Fed guy. They see me as this outsider. And then I'm going to come in and do a terrible performance, right? And they're going to hate me for that. And then they're going to want me to drop the belt even more on January 4th. So it's building heat, brother, for the big match that's coming up. That's probably the way he spun it. And like, Gato's probably like, oh yeah, that's going to be really
heat,
good.
Brother, yeah.
Yeah, the heat. Yeah, that's really good. All the while, Carl's like, I'm not going to have to take any bumps. I'm not going to have to do much work. It's going to keep me nice and safe so I can go back on the road and, do house shows, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, all right, well, if he's just going to turn around and lose the belt to Tama, right? We could have just cut this all off 6 months ago.
Seriously.
There was if he was just going to turn around and drop the belt back to Tama, he should have just lost to Tama before the G1. Or I don't even know if the timeline works, but like, we should have found a way to make it work and just had him lose the belt back to Tama and that be that and just move on. Because at this point, it's like Tama already beat Okada last year. He already beat Jay White this year. He's already like elevated himself to like an upper mid-carder, sometimes main eventer sort of status. putting the never belt on him, sure, I guess it's going to help in a certain sense, but the follow-up to it is going to probably be lacking. And all the while, like you mentioned, Jeremy, this title has been a title that is like, you know what's funny? The way, you know how the way people talk about the IC belt in WWE, this legendary workhorse belt, there's only been a couple times in its history that it ever actually was like that. Most of the time, it's been pretty shitty. But because of the performances of a few guys in a few sorted eras, it has this aura about it as this workhorse title. Well, the Never title really is a fucking workhorse title. And I can guarantee you, if you took like even just say the 5 best Never title matches and compared it to like the top 10 IC title matches, they're not going to compare to the top 5 Never title matches that are on record. This belt has always fucking ruled. And you've got this guy, Carl, coming out here and just stinking up the joint. And I understand the logic behind it, the heat that you're trying to draw. But I just feel like at this point, the company doesn't give a fuck. Carl doesn't give a fuck. I don't know why we should give a fuck. It didn't get Hikuleo over any more than it should have.
Right.
Which is what I thought the point was. And now Tama's taking a step back to face this guy on January 4th. It kind of just sucks across the board.
Yeah, and then the whole post-match angle, he says, oh yeah, I'm going to be at the Tokyo Dome. He called out Tama Tonga, and Tama Tonga comes out there and is, doing the post-match brawl with him, and then Carl ends up hitting him with a gun stun and leaves him laying. Makes Tama Tonga look like a bum. Like, this guy came out to fight this guy who just had a match, and he's getting laid out with a gun stun. It's like, don't you want to give like Tama some momentum and like be like, all right, yeah, he's gonna be the guy, to save the belt and get it from Carl, but he looks like a geek also.
I think that him saying, "You think I came to Japan to do a jizzob," is more shoot than we want to give credence to. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
everyone's getting worked, and the only person who's not getting worked is Carl Anderson. And he's going to lose the title, but like, I'm not even putting it past him to like actually end up looking bad in defeat at the end of the day when January 4th comes up. This whole thing is kind of like embarrassing. And I know there's a great way to spin it with the whole mentor-mentee relationship and years of build that have gone on between Talking Shop and Tama's Island and the Bullet Club and yada yada. But like, at the end of the day, it's about a match. It's about 2 guys step into the ring.
The bell rings. The bell
rings. And it's going to suck.
And the thing is, this should have been a hot angle and hot story. I remember when we were at Resurgence in California a couple years ago when you had the face-off between G.O.D. and the Good Brothers. The crowd was like going...
That shit was hot.
Crowd was going crazy. Yes,
Did we ever get that match?
No, I don't think so.
We never even got a G.O.D. versus Good Brothers. We didn't get one match.
Unless
no.
Did it happen in Impact?
They did it in Impact.
Yeah. Okay.
Nobody saw it. It's terrible.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
Like, this should have been a hot story. Like you mentioned, there's so much back history and story with Tama and Carl Anderson.
My God. This is One Nation Radio. Put them in a coffin-worthy material. This is terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, God. And also, like, I get it. If you're trying to build up... You're selling it as though, like, we're going to sacrifice Hikuleo to build up Tama Tonga. My answer to that is just build them both fucking up. Have a great match with Hikuleo. Have a great match with Tama Tonga. Let's retroactively go back and have a great match with Tanahashi, one of the greatest performers of all time. And while you're at it, go back and have another great match with Tama Tonga. If Carl Anderson had just come out here and had great matches with in these 4 instances, we wouldn't be having this discussion. I wouldn't give a fuck about him carrying the belt and being in WWE and the politics. It's because his matches fucking suck. Yeah. I shouldn't have had this juice because I feel like I'm doing an FOH bit. Like, and we did draft this man during FOH, and it was worse than this. Oh, my bad. So if you guys haven't heard it, you need to go download that because, it was worse than this. Actually, Jeremy, you're the one that drafted that shit, and you went harder than me.
Yeah, dude, I went in on him on the draft show. But yeah, I mean,
I'm over it.
Yeah, at this point, like, let's get to the Dome, let's get the belt on Tama, and let's get rid of, let's be done with Carl Anderson for good.
But like it's to the point where it's like you can call us marks for like complaining and hating it, but it's go away heat at this point. It's not like I'm looking forward to this like, oh my god, I want to like when Tama Tonga, when he faced Jay White in the G1, I was like, fuck yeah, beat this dude, get your revenge. But at this point, it's just like, all right, beat this guy so he can get out of here. But I don't know what the fuck creative has for you afterwards. We definitely have belief in Tama Tonga. We're fans of his, but the whole thing is so sullied by shitty matches and a guy we don't want to see that the whole affair is so drab. It sucks.
Yeah, it's really dragging things down.
Ugh. Anyways, semi-main event, 8th match of the night, Super Junior Tag League Finals. The Chaos team of Lio Rush and Yo defeated the Bullet Club team of Ace Austin and Chris Bay 21 minutes and 10 seconds. And Jeremy, before you take it, I just want to say this. I kind of knew Ace Austin and Chris Bay wouldn't win this, although I did think that they'd find a way to finagle their way into potentially. I think both of us were calling for a triple threat match, but I knew they weren't going to have one or even hypothetically two all Gaijin tag team finalists for both of these tournaments. And so I really knew Ace Austin and Chris Bay was not winning this tournament, period. And it seemed very clear to me from the very beginning that Lio Rush and Yo would either win or be in some sort of situation where after they won, they'd be in a triple threat. I think we both called that.
Yeah.
It is weird how many people didn't see this from the beginning, considering they did a whole angle introducing Lio Rush just before the tournament started.
Well, I mean, since Lio Rush has been in New Japan, they've been trying to make him a big deal since the very first time he came in. Like, they've always done, like, vignettes or big, appearances or debuts. He's been in, the Super J Cups. He's, done stuff on Strong. He's been on the New Japan US pay-per-views. Like, they've been trying to capitalize off of what a great talent Lio Rush is and just the momentum he had coming out of NXT. And due to injuries and pandemics and mental health issues and stuff like that, it just hasn't worked out the way they wanted it to. And so now they finally got Lio Rush in Japan. They're finally able to capitalize probably on a significant contract they have with him. And use the guy. He's a great talent, and now they're finally getting to use him in Japan. So yeah, definitely they're going to highlight him in the Tokyo Dome.
Nice. Now, I got to tell you, Jeremy, I know that I'm looking here and I can see that you were high on this match. I personally, and maybe it's just because I'm coming in as an outsider, I wasn't that high on the junior finals for whatever reason. And it was my understanding that these teams had a very highly heralded match earlier in the tournament, right?
Yeah.
Was it the opening night?
No, I think opening night it was Lio versus Catch 2-2.
I heard a lot about that match, but this match just seemed to kind of come and go for me for whatever reason. But maybe you can clue me in. I don't know what I'm missing here.
Yeah, I don't know if it was because I watched the whole tournament, just kind of watched how these teams progress, but I don't know. I thought it was a really fast-paced matchup here. I thought it told a good story of isolating Yo at one point in the match. I thought there was a lot of great near falls. I thought guys were working hard, a lot of cool dives, a lot of cool moves. Obviously, it came down to some miscommunication with Ace Austin and Chris Bay, which came down to Yo getting to hit the direct drive at the end and pinning Ace Austin and getting a big win for the team. So I don't know. Maybe I was just into it a little bit more, but I don't know. I bit for some of the near falls, but there's a lot of cool dives and maneuvers. These are two of the top teams from the tournament that worked hard every night. Like we've been saying, Lio Rush and Yo, both have motivated each other. And Ace Austin, Chris Bay, they came in and were a really top team, filled the tournament, had a lot of really fun matchups. So I don't know. I enjoyed it a lot.
Nice. Well, as far as the post match, Lio Rush and Yo, they end up winning the match. And I noticed that Lio Rush cut a promo. Actually, it's actually not even post-match. It's at the end of the evening where he talked about of all the evenings and all the accolades and all the achievements he's had in his career, winning this tournament on this evening with Yo as his partner is the greatest achievement of his entire life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I heard that he'd also been saying that he is chaos for life.
Yes, his family.
I am highly suspicious about all of these claims, considering that it's Lio Rush, considering his history. I got a feeling that this, I don't know. I don't want to be that guy who's like, it's going to be a swerve, bro, but like it feels like it might be a swerve.
Like they're going to lose and he turns on Yo.
Maybe, yeah.
Mm.
I mean, like the natural inclination is he would go to Bullet Club, but I don't know if Bullet Club needs another junior, but they might. Fuck it, you know? I don't know. But either way, I mean, were you happy with the outcome here? I know that you were high on this Bullet Club tag team. You almost nominated them for tag team of the month in it, and then you changed it last minute from Catch 2-2 and them to Aussie Open. So what were your thoughts on that aspect of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what you were saying, like initially of knowing, like, all right, you need some domestic talent on this Wrestle Kingdom show. And so, I mean, Yo and Lio from the very beginning were one of my favorites to win or get in the title match somehow. And so, yeah, I was not disappointed with Lio and Yo winning. Again, they were another great team in the tournament. They had a lot of great matches throughout the tournament. So I'm perfectly happy with Lio and Yo going to the finals. I think, like we said, Lio Rush, he is very motivated right now. He's super talented. And so, yeah, he's been great on this tour. And so I think him and Yo together, I think are a nice shot in the arm in the junior tag division. It's a shot in the arm for Yo's career. You know, Yo has been just kind of aimless. He's since breaking up with Sho and Roppongi 3K, and so I think it's great for him. Yo is showing, he's being more aggressive. He's showing fire. He's showing all the things that we wanted to see once the split happened. He's doing all that stuff now with Lio Rush. And them and Catch 2-2 had a great match in the tournament, so I think the Wrestle Kingdom match will be great as well. Austin and Bay, those guys did great work in the tournament, and there'll probably be more shots for those guys in the future. And again, they're quote unquote impact guys, even though they're in Bullet Club. While you have Yo, domestic contracted guy. I'm assuming Lio Rush probably has a New Japan of America deal, or maybe he has a New Japan deal, not sure. But he seems to be contracted in some form or fashion. So yeah, definitely made sense for these guys to go in, and I'm happy to see that.
Well, we were both correct in accurately predicting that the Chaos team of Lio Rush and Yo would win the junior tournament. We weren't fully correct in the fact that there'd be a triple threat, but we were correct on the winners on that side.
Right.
So
I mean,
nice.
Yeah, we were just going off of past history, but I am happy that New Japan is, is just going straight up tag match here.
And if it was any other tour other than the Road to Tokyo Dome, I would think that they had the ability to change it to a triple threat between now and then. But we know that once they've done videos and the expensive promos, they're not changing that shit. So
Right.
it's a done deal. We did have one question. It's more of a just a funny comment from Hawaiian Punch BB. He said, during the Wrestle Kingdom press conference, Lio Rush stated that all the tag league matches were only practice for the Wrestle Kingdom match. By his logic, do you think that all of his retirements were only practice for the real retirement?
Wow.
Which I love that. I think that's the best thing he's ever written into us. So. And then your main event, the World Tag League 2022 Finals, we had the team of Bishamon, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi. They, to the surprise of many, but maybe not those who were plugged in, defeated the Aussie Open team of Kyle Fletcher, Mark Davis with Gideon Gray, 28 minutes, 22 seconds, and what I thought was a really great classic tag league final match.
Yeah, I love this tag league final. I've seen a lot of people kind of way lower than I am, but I don't know. I thought the stage was set well. I thought they told a great story. And, I started questioning things earlier on a few weeks ago when Aussie Open defeated Bishamon. I was like, something don't seem like something's weird here. Like, Because Bishamon, after that, Bishamon kept winning and was, tied up with these guys. I'm like, well, if you're going with Aussie Open Bishamon for the finals, which makes sense because Bishamon won the finals last year, like, why would you have Aussie Open beat them earlier in the league if that's going to be the finals and then beat them again? Because that's going to kind of bury your top domestic tag team, beating them twice in the league. And then, like you mentioned earlier, that'd be another Gaijin versus Gaijin match at the Dome. And so I started putting the pieces together, and me and MJ does PR were talking about it a couple weeks ago too. Like, it does kind of seem sense, and even Karen said it last week too. Yeah, for Bishamon to get the win here, you need some domestic talent on the card. They are the top domestic tag team, and Gato loves doing back-to-back tournament wins. So here we got these guys.
We talked about that in the preview.
Yep, so back-to-back tag league wins for these guys. They're going to the Dome to face FTR, a fresh matchup for FTR. But, I mean, I love this match. I thought there were so many great back and forth. The near falls were so great. And the funny thing is, I went in spoiled watching. I did too. I knew Bishamon had won watching this match. But even as I was watching it, I was popped because I was looking for where it's going to end. And there were so many points where I thought it was going to be over, and they just kept going and kicking out. And there were so many great spots. Goto hitting the GTR off the apron to Kyle Fletcher through the table on the outside was crazy. There was an awesome destroyer counter that Yoshihashi did at one point. So many counters from the Shoto and Aussie Open's double team move, the Coriolis. There were so many great back and forth near falls and false finishes. This was an awesome main event here.
Yeah, it was really great. I'm not sure that I have the same level of I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Like, I just wasn't as into it maybe necessarily as you were because I didn't see the tournament. So it was hard for me to kind of investment. I didn't have the same level of investment into it. I did think from the outset, I know both of us thought that Aussie Open could potentially win this tournament. And the very fact that FTR were the champions always did give me pause because the idea that you have Gaijin champions and then Gaijin challengers winning the tag league to challenge them at Wrestle Kingdom seemed a little bit dubious, except for the fact that it's FTR and Aussie Open. And there was a part of me that was like, they might be hyped enough for that rematch considering the results from Royal Quest 2 that they might want to do it again. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I didn't like is that remember when they at Battle Autumn they did that whole entire backstage segment where the two teams came face to face and got heated and made it very clear. It seemed very clear going into this tournament that was like a big feud that was going to be paid off at the end of the tournament. And it's not one of those things where like, I know that the people listening, one of the answers they might say is like, well, it's New Japan. People say whatever the fuck they want backstage and go into business for themselves. And yes, that is true. But it's a little different when the company has all the guys walking in matching suits and they have the cameras set perfectly for that moment where the interaction comes. And then they promote it all over their social media on every single channel nonstop for a whole day.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed to me very clear, based off that particular promotion, that we may potentially be getting that match at Wrestle Kingdom. Now, I'm not saying the match isn't going to happen, the rematch down the line. I think there's too much money for that to not happen. And that's probably going to maybe telegraph a little bit what I think is going to happen at Wrestle Kingdom when it comes to Bishamon and FTR. But that was the main catalyst for why I thought Aussie Open might win this tournament. Had that never happened, I would have picked Bishamon day one because, like we said during the preview, they are the top domestic tag team going in New Japan today, and it would make all the sense given Geto's proclivity for having back-to-back tournament winners and making history, plus we've also talked about it in the past where when teams get facelifts and new looks and new music and yada yada, and they've already been a pushed commodity in the past, that's like a recipe for them to win the tournament anyways, right?
Exactly.
Right out the gate.
Yeah, they got new music. Yoshihashi got new matching gear for the Gotos. The Bishamon team name, because a couple years ago they were just Yoshihashi and Goto. Now they're they're Bishamon. They have the staffs, the gear, the music, the tag team finisher, the Shoto,
the lore.
So it made all sense for Bishamon to win here, and I think there are some fans who are upset that they're not getting the Aussie Open FTR rematch at the Tokyo Dome. But I feel like that match is going to be coming really quickly.
Yeah, and you know what? Again, I think it's another case, like you mentioned, Jeremy. There's certain kinds of like casual fans, like the ones that were freaking out about the Jonah situation. A lot of them were the same types of fans that were freaking out about this situation. I mean, if you've been paying attention to the company, Bishamon is their most protected and pushed domestic group or tag team that they have going today, especially with the hypothetical dissolution of Suzuki-gun and Dangerous Tekkers potentially breaking up forever, which is on the table.
Mm-hmm.
That even more so elevates Bishamon in their standings in the tag team division. So I'm not surprised by this at all. One thing I am surprised about are the ardent, hardcore New Japan voices in the community that don't like Bishamon and think they're boring. And the only thing I got to say for that to you, if you fall in that category, is like, maybe, I don't know, maybe tag team wrestling's not for you. Maybe you should watch something else, because Goto and Yoshihashi fucking rule. And I don't know what to tell you. Like, you don't like him?
Especially Yoshihashi, man. This guy is fired up. He's motivated. He's going out there. He seems like the team leader here. He's killing it in all these matchups. He got the big win here in this matchup here. Their chemistry and some of their tag team, double team combos are just really great, and they've become a really top tag team to watch.
8:29 p.m. I got a message from my girlfriend. It said, "OMG, who do you think you are? LMFAO." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "The intro you did." And I was like, "When I played Eric Bischoff, LOL." She was like, "Yes." I'm pretty sure she can hear this, so it's kind of funny. But yeah, man. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I get it. A lot of people really want to see Aussie Open and FTR again. I'm one of them. I mean, that's why both of us predicted that they'd win the tournament. And those guys had an incredible tournament, Aussie Open did. And they really did establish themselves in Japan at this point. And I mean, little spoiler alert, they may or may not be leading in Tag Team of the Year for the Keepin It Strong Style Awards, which is kind of crazy because they only actually got into Japan proper in like, what, November?
Yeah, that's Battle Autumn Tour, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But with that being said, it makes all the sense in the world that Bishamon would be repeat winners and that they need to sell tickets for the Dome. And as hot as that match might be for Western audiences, having a Chaos team established as a challenger on a night when Kazuchika Okada is challenging for the world title, and the fact that they're a domestic product, and the fact that this is a Japanese company that pushes Japanese wrestlers, it's not that surprising whatsoever. What would have actually been surprising is had they gone with Aussie Open.
Yeah.
And we did think that they had enough cachet to maybe do that, because I did think like there's two tag leagues running simultaneously. Maybe you do a domestic team and then a Gaijin team, and there's enough there to maybe do that. But in this case, they were like, nope, we're going to have at least one domestic product in both of those finalists. And once I saw the finals and that it was two Chaos teams that won on the same night, I was like, of course, this is total Gato booking. It makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't see it from the outset.
And for those who are, impatient for the rematch, all I'll say is Yokohama Arena, night 2.
Yeah.
Is a few weeks away after January 4th. So
I agree. I agree. I think that totally. We did have one question from OK 890. Do you think they're trying to breathe life back into chaos with the double tag league win and new addition in Leo Rush?
I'm not so sure the wins are so much about chaos as a whole. I think, like we were saying, they're really trying to establish Bishamon, and they've been waiting for a long time to get Leo Rush in Japan. So I think it's pretty much all about, just establishing Bishamon as a top domestic tag team, and then kind of establishing this new team of Yo and Leo Rush. And it just so happens that they're both in chaos. I don't really think, and maybe there was some thought in the booking that way, but I really don't think the main call here was like, all right, we need to, bump chaos up here.
I agree, and I don't have a lot more to add to that. So that's going to do it for our Super Junior and World Tag League Finals. Let's jump into our final thoughts and review of the Tag League as a whole. I'm going to run through the standings. We don't have to give grades to each and every one of them, but I think it would be a good idea. I'm going to ask you a few questions, Jeremy. You can give me your overall thoughts on the tournament, if that sounds good.
Yeah.
So the NJPW World Tag League 2022 final standings, we had Bishamon ending with 14 points, 7 wins, 2 losses. Aussie Open ended with 14 points, the same record. TMDK, Shane Hayes and Mikey Nichols, 12 points. Naito and Sonata, 12 points. Great Okan and Aaron Hinare, 10 points. Hiroshi Tanahashi and Toriano, 8 points. Minoru Suzuki and Lance Archer, 8 points. Evil and Yujiro, 6 points. Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens, 4 points. They had to forfeit their remaining matches after Owens withdrew from the tournament due to a death in the family. And then Coughlin and Gabe Kidd ended up with 2 points. That's 1 win and 8 losses. So general thoughts, Jeremy, you just tell me things that stick out to you. Teams that did really well, teams that did really bad. What were your feelings and overall thoughts on the heavyweight side of the World Tag League?
Overall, I feel like this is one of the better World Tag Leagues that I've watched and reviewed since we've been doing the show in 2017. Nice. I think, with the inclusion of so many new and fresh tag teams, it really made it fun and exciting to watch. Obviously, Aussie Open, we gave them November Wrestler of the Month. They were obviously probably one of the top teams to watch in this tournament. Those guys, amazing chemistry and killed it every night. Like that comment you said where somebody was like, oh yeah, they're in these little buildings and they're, killing themselves. Like, yeah, like they were going out here each night, whether it was a clap crowd or not, whether it was Corkin or some other smaller building, they were going out here and having, really great matchups night after night. Bishamon was another really good team in the tournament to watch. TMDK, Haste and Nichols were really good. Naito and Sonata, they were all right. They had some nights when they were really good, when the TMDK match and the Aussie Open match. But there were some nights where they were maybe a little bit lazy. Like
what? Naito and Sonata from LIJ were lazy? Get the fuck out of here, Jeremy. That is crazy. Don't besmirch the good name of Los Ingobernables de Japón. Workhorses. Those guys are fucking animals. They do nothing but give their best every night.
Well, yeah, there were some nights. I don't know if it was a mix of like lazy and Naito's knees just being shot. There were several nights where he botched the Tornado DT and the Destino. Like,
I heard about that.
Yeah, he was looking pretty rough on this tour. Okan Hinare, they were really good. Yano and Tanahashi, more kind of your...
Before you move on, I want to say one thing. There was some very public outrage about Tetsuya Naito not making it into the finals, not winning the World Tag League. Let's put this perspective, Naito fans. Had they won the World Tag League, they would be facing FTR for the world title, for the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles. Now, I don't know how you feel about where they ended up, or at least where Naito ended up. I guess not a 2 when it comes to the Wrestle Kingdom lineup card. But like, I agree with you, Jeremy. I listened to the show last week, and you basically said to the people, like, is that where you want Tetsuya Naito to end up, is in a World Tag League match against or in a IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team title match against FTR? Is that like the grand spot that this guy that you claimed never got his big run should end up? Is that what you were actually angry and lobbying for? Was that they win Tag League? I don't know. The whole discourse about it just seemed so fucking bizarre to me.
Well, it's one of those things, or I don't know which fan base it is, but people,
it's the Naito stands.
I know, but I think there's probably some of the casual fans we're talking about too. They're seeing oh well, Naito and Sonata are not on the card, so they have to win the Tag League. That's the only way they're getting to the Tokyo Dome, and it's
the John Cena storyline when he didn't have a path to WrestleMania,
right? And from day one, LIJ was not a favorite for me to win this. I thought, yes, they would do very well, which they did here. They got 12 points, tied for second place there with TMDK with 12 points. And it's obviously, I thought it made a lot of sense for them to do well, but you're not going to put Naito, your top star, in an IWGP tag team title match at the Tokyo Dome. Yes, I know these guys have had tag title matches before, but those were on Summer Struggle and some of those lower pay-per-views. They weren't on Wrestle Kingdom. They weren't on the Tokyo Dome. You're not going to put Naito there. And so it didn't make sense for me at all to think that these guys would win this.
I agree. And I think it's one of those things where it's they moved the goalpost. They were the Naito fans were he's destined this year to be in the main event of the Tokyo Dome against Naito. And then it suddenly shifted where they realized that wasn't going to happen. They're all right, well, he's got to win the Tag League. It's well, no, there's another path. You just got to be patient. And I think those of us who were already thinking logically was he's probably going to be in Muto's final match. And he is. And it makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. Tanahashi and Yano, kind of your comedy act here with the whole, bebop thing.
I heard bad things about Tanahashi in this tournament. I heard he definitely was healing it up and having fun, but I heard physically the things that I've been saying for a year and a half about Tanahashi being struggling. I'm hearing other people start to say that, which makes me feel not good. Did you notice any of that?
I mean, for me, it hasn't been any different than it has been the past year. I don't feel like he was struggling anymore than he has been the last year or so. So, to me, I thought he was fine. I mean, honestly, he really didn't do much. It was a lot of him, a lot of shenanigans, a lot of, funny haha with Yano.
I'll trust you over them, but I did hear that. And it was concerning me because I was damn, is it getting worse?
Yeah, I don't think it was worse. Honestly, he wasn't even trying that hard. So,
the two guys I was very interested in that I'm unfortunately wasn't able to see much of was Gabe Kidd and Alex Coughlin. I did see the botch where they were doing the, and I don't even know if it was a botch, but I know that they were doing the spot where Coughlin was power bombing Kidd into his opponent and then I guess missing. There's one night where he did it pretty high angle and it looked like Kidd might have banged his head a little bit. But what were your thoughts on these guys' run? Because obviously they came in as the young, I don't want to call them young lions. They're not quite lions, but they kind of were slotted like lions in the kayfabe.
Yeah, I mean, these guys came out here and they worked hard, very nice. Also, they were telling a story that, they're not used to teaming together. There was a lot of miscommunications between them. They even teased some distension and breaking up on the way there towards the last night. And so, finally when they got that big win over House of Torture, that was kind of a turning point for them in the tournament. Their scores are deceiving for their performance. They performed very well in the tournament, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of them.
So the Super Junior Tag League final standings, we had Yo and Leo Rush, 7 wins, 2 losses, 14 points. Ace Austin and Chris Bay were tied with them. TJP and Francesco Akira catch 22. They had 12 points. Alex Zane and El Lindemann, 12 points. Bushi and Teton, 12 points. Kanemaru and Doki, 8 points. Taguchi and Clark Connors, 6 points. Flying Tiger, the only returning team to this tournament, coming in surprisingly at 4 points, very surprising. Kushida and Kevin Knight, 4 points, and then the lowest performing team of the tournament, Sho and Dick Togo, 4 points as well.
Yeah, overall, again, one of the best junior tag leagues in a long time. And like you mentioned, a lot of fresh faces there, of Flying Tiger being the only team returning. Yo and Leo Rush, Ace Austin and Chris Bay, Catch 2-2, Zayn and Lindemann, Bushi and Teton. I mean, all those teams, those top teams in the rankings there, were all really, really good teams that worked really hard. All those teams had really exciting matchups throughout the tournament, and these are all teams I want to see, back next year and established throughout the year as either junior tag champions or challengers throughout the year. Yoshinobu Kanemaru and Doki, they did really good there as well, coming in with 8 points. They started the tournament off pretty rough. They were going in like 0-5 at one point, and then they made the big comeback there, picked up 4 wins there towards the end, ending up with 8 points. Wild Hips, Taguchi, and Connors, again, very similar to the Bebop tag team, with a lot of comedy, a lot of shenanigans, a lot of haha, a lot of seeing both of their backsides. So kind of a disappointing role for Clark Connors, but it was kind of what you would get from Taguchi. Flying Tiger, a little bit disappointing point total here, considering they were the only team to return, and they were junior tag champs last year. But also you have Tiger Mask in there, who's kind of being phased out, and so many fresh young new faces in here, so they ate a lot of losses but had some good matches. Kushida and Kevin Knight, kind of similar to Coughlin and Kid, where the point totals don't match the performance. Every night they were having really good matches, and their team was pretty much all about spotlighting Kevin Knight and starting to get him over. And it seems like they're going to be an established team going forward. And then Sho and Dick Togo, similar to Evil and Udro and the heavyweight side of things. The whole story of those guys, the shenanigans were not working out most of the tour. Ate a lot of losses, and then kind of played spoiler towards the end for some teams.
House of Torture's in the mud, huh?
Yeah, in the mud, big time. Never title match, 6-man title match at the Dome.
So aside from the obvious, we know who won both of these tag leagues. What would be your MVP team for each league? Would it be Aussie Open and then Ace Austin and Chris Bay?
Probably a tie between Austin and Bay and Catch 2-2.
Okay, gotcha. And then Aussie Open was your tag team of the World Tag League?
Yeah.
I know you kind of glossed over it. How did TMDK do? Were they in that same range or like a tier below?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were very good. I would say that maybe a little bit below Aussie Open, but they're established tag team. They have a ton of history together, and they were a really good veteran team to have in there.
Nice. So I see you've got a top 10 list of tag matches here. Let's just treat it, instead of going over the top 10, my real question is tag team match of the year. We're usually looking at a 4.25 type level of recommended match. For someone like me who didn't see the tournament, out of these 10, what are the matches I need to go back and watch? And what do you think realistically might have a good shot at making our tag team match of the year list? Keep in mind 4 to 4.25-ish type of range.
Yeah, and again, I might be super high on some of the stuff compared to others, but I think both tag league finals will be in contention. Bishamon versus Aussie Open, and Lee Yo versus Chris Bay and Ace Austin. I think Bay and Austin against Sauce Hearts could be a contender. Catch 2-2 versus Lee Yo from the first night in Cork and Hall. And then Aussie Open versus LIJ. So that top kind of 5 there that I have there on the rundown, those are probably all that I can see as
like a tier above the rest of the tournaments.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with watching pretty much any catch 2-2 match, any Aussie Open match, Ace Austin and Chris Bay, Sauce Hearts, like Bishamon had some really good matches. So I mean, those were kind of the top teams and top matches there.
Final couple questions before we move on. Now I know we kind of discussed in the preview for this tournament what it might be like having these two tournaments tied together. Did you find that it was overwhelming to have this level of tournaments back to back in such a short amount of time? Or was it kind of refreshing having the juniors and the heavies tied together at one time? Was there any room for improvement or changes that you would make, maybe splitting these up and putting them in different parts of the calendar? What was your experience watching all this together?
So overall, I do like the idea of having the World Tag League and Junior Tag League on the same tour, and alternating nights between the tournaments. My main critique is, or complaint, or however you want to say it, is just the fact that it was such a short period of time, and I think that was also due to historic crossover, which kind of bumped things back, and so you had a really accelerated couple weeks there with this tournament. Had this been spread out just a little bit more, I think it'd been a bit more palatable and easy for people to watch and keep up with. I think this is a great time of year for it. I mean, overall, I still am not a fan of one block leagues. I think, it's more intriguing to have two blocks, because I hate that you have a rematch in the finals of a match that you saw in the league, which I get there is creative storytelling that you can do. With what they did with Leo and Ace Austin and Chris Bay, they lost those guys early in the tournament. They got the win back there, and same thing with Bishamon and Aussie Open. Bishamon got their win back towards the end. So I get that kind of storytelling, but I think it's more intriguing when you have two blocks and then you get down to two teams who hadn't faced each other at all. But with the way they're doing this tour and this schedule, that you probably can't do two blocks of each in the same time period. It'd probably be too much. So if they're going to do the one block, I'm fine with them doing heavyweight night, junior night, and running it this way.
Final thing for someone like me, obviously I was off the last couple weeks here. We've covered a lot of tag leagues over the years, and sometimes there are storylines that are just very much self-contained within a tag league, and they happen within a tag league, but after it's over, once Wrestle Kingdom comes, they're gone. And it's just over. And then there's some things that definitely lead to progressive growth over time. Since I missed most of this tournament, are there any storyline changes, things that you think are going to have long-term growth that I need to have, or at least be aware of or paid attention to? I know obviously we had like a graduation, things like that.
Yeah, from the heavyweight side of things, I think honestly the main kind of story that I feel is going to continue is Aussie Open's quest to face FTR. Every night, they were cutting promos and being, we're going to face FTR in the Dome. We're going to get there. So I think this is kind of that little tragedy booking that Gail likes, and setting a little roadblock here for Aussie Open. So I do think we are going to get that rematch eventually. So that's probably the big story that's going on. That's going to carry out past this tournament from the heavyweight side of things.
I liked Gideon Gray's intro for them during the World Tag League Finals, talking about how they've been champions this many times on this many continents and conquered every place they've been, but not New Japan.
Right. So that was good. And then from the junior side of things, probably the story that's going to carry out is just establishing Io and Leo Rush as this new hot junior tag team. It seems like they're invested in making that a long-term team and that going forward. And then also Kevin Knight graduating, getting matching gear to Kushida. Again, seems like that's going to be kind of a new partnership going forward as well. And Kevin Knight kind of, learning a lot from Kushida.
Awesome. Well, that is going to do it for our coverage of the World Tag League. Thank you, Jeremy, for everything that you've done through this tour. And I'm going to kick it back to you if you want to take over the rest of the show.
This holiday, whether you're making a Kroger Simple Truth turkey for 40 or a Murray's Baked Brie for 2, Kroger has fast, fresh delivery and free pickup, so you can make holiday meals that bring you all together to create memories that last. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Free pickup on orders of $35 or more. Restrictions may apply.
Choose from a great selection of digital coupons and use them up to 5 times in one transaction. Check our app for details. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Hey, are you ready?
The Christmas countdown's on at JCPenney. Through Saturday, use your coupon and dash away with very merry savings on last-minute gifts across the store, like fine jewelry stocking stuffers up to 70% off after coupon, and save up to 50% on comfy, stylish outerwear for the whole fam. Add curbside pickup to make your trip extra quick. We got your holiday. JCPenney. Offers good on select items through 12/24. Exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details.
Yep. So after the Tag League Finals, we had the Wrestle Kingdom press conference that revealed details for the upcoming Road to Tokyo Dome events, New Year's Dash, and further information regarding cheering crowds. So the conference opened up with comments from NJPW President Takami Obari announcing the new guidelines that will allow crowds to have, in principle, vocal support starting at Wrestle Kingdom 17. Now, everybody pay attention to this because there's a lot of, do this and don't do this for the cheering rules. So this is what they say. As an important distinction is the rules concerning no loud voice cheering have not changed at events, Abari said. However, the definition of cheering has been allowed to change after our consultations to allow in principle, an effective return to cheering. Current government rulings state that long singing, rally songs, etc. are not allowed. So you can't sing, a full theme song. However, counting with a referee, cheering with a catchphrase like 1, 2, 3, da, or chanting for wrestlers is allowed under the guidelines. So you can do your Naito, catch, 2-2, all that stuff you can do. You can count along with the ref. As rally songs are disallowed, so are chants that might be longer than, for example, the chorus of a song. Singing to the length of a wrestler's entrance would be disallowed, Abari added, but with chants pre-pandemic lasting an average of 10 to 20 seconds, this is not a significant issue. And also, you can do like the Kaze ni Nare chant, since that's not a longer than a minute. Barry noted that some venues won't recognize NJPW's new guidelines, but they will be in place starting at Wrestle Kingdom 17. So essentially, cheering is back, but there's a lot of, finessing and finagling on the definitions and wordings on how to cheer. But essentially, cheering is back.
It sounds like, and I'm just taking a guess here, it sounds like they're trying to find a way to finagle their way into like allowing cheering, but also having the perception of providing public safety by not allowing quote unquote prolonged cheers, knowing full well that never occurred in New Japan to begin with.
Right.
Like the longest cheer I can think of is someone being like, Kenny!
Right, or like
for like more than a couple seconds or something like
right,
that.
or like the let's go Tai Chi, go home Tai Chi.
Yeah. So, but I got the feeling that like the rest of the world has already moved on to the point where it's like everyone's just cheering and they're just trying to get their foot in the door so that eventually they could just not pay attention and just move on like the rest of us.
Right,
So,
and I think for this Tokyo Dome show, which is a really big card, they definitely wanted to bend over backwards to get more cheering possible for this show.
this is fantastic news. A few weeks ago, it looked very much so like this wasn't even on the table. And now it is a reality. So it's great news. I'm glad for it. And I'm even more so looking forward to Wrestle Kingdom than I was prior.
Yeah. So it was also announced during the press conference that New Year's Dash will have a mystery format. And if you're a longtime fan, you're probably saying, wait, New Year's Dash always had a mystery format, but they've upped the mystery here. So matches will not be announced until wrestlers come out.
They're not even going to announce it before the show starts.
Yeah, so previous years, they would have the ring announcer, as soon as the show starts, he would announce the full card. We wouldn't know until he announced the full card. But now they're not doing that. It's straight up mystery. You won't know what's happening until people's music hits, and that's when you'll know what match is happening. So
that's funny because I read that and I knew it, but it didn't register till now.
But the only one match that we do know that will happen will be the four-way match to determine the first KOPW champion for the year. So the final four participants from the Wrestle Kingdom 17 Rambo, they will compete in that fatal four-way and will get the first KOPW 2023 provisional champion.
Great. Well, during this past week as well, we had the Wrestle Kingdom 17 full card announced. I'll go through the list here very quickly. So on the pre-show, we have an opening match between Ryohei Oiwa and Bolton Oleg in his debuting match for New Japan in an exhibition match. We have another preview match for the KOP 2023 New Japan Rambo. The final four finalists of that match will face off in the final four-way during New Year's Dash to crown the 2023 inaugural provisional lineal 2023 KOPW champion. And then finally on the pre-show, we have an Antonio Inoki Memorial 6-man tag team match as Togi Makame, Satoshi Kojima, returning from Noah, and Yuji Nagata take on Tatsumi Fujinami, his old ass, Minoru Suzuki, his old ass, and Tiger Mask, his old ass. So we got a lot of old dudes.
Olds on top.
Olds on top. Actually, olds on top of the pre-show.
Yes.
For the main card, we have the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles as Catch-22 defend against Leo Rush and Yo. The IWGP Women's title, Kairi defends against Tam Nakano. The IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles, FTR defend against Bishamon. The NJPW World TV title finals, tournament finals as Ren Narita and Zack Sabre Jr. Face off to determine the first ever World Television Champion. The Never Openweight titles on the line as Carl Anderson defends against Tamatonga. In his final ever NJPW match, Keiji Muto, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Shota Umino will face off against Tetsuya Naito, Sonata, and Bushi of LIJ. Seeing what they do there, Keiji Muto, next generation Tanahashi. A few generations later, Shota Umino. Looks like they're doing something a little cute there. And then after that, we have the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title match. It's a fatal four-way or four-way dance or whatever terminology you're used to using. Taiji Ishimori defends against Hiromu Takahashi, El Desperado, and Master Wato in a four-way match. Semi-main event, the IWGP United States titles on the line as Will Ospreay defends against the cleaner, Kenny Omega.
And one correction, it's not the semi-main event. It's double main event one.
Double main event.
Yes.
Just like WrestleMania 8.
Yeah, double main event one.
Double main event one. Just like when Ric Flair and Randy Savage was main event one, right?
Yes.
Yes, and then that makes sense because as Hogan and Sid is to WrestleMania 8, Jay White and Okada is to Wrestle Kingdom 17. We have the IWGP World Heavyweight title on the line as the champion Jay White defends against the G1 champion and challenger Kazuchika Okada.
So next week, Chris Samsa will be joining us, and that's when we will do our...
I've changed my mind. I don't want him on this show anymore.
I'll let you take that up with him, but we will be doing our official...
He would be like, fuck you, I'm coming on.
Like we've done the last few years, Chris will come on. We'll do our official preview and predictions for Wrestle Kingdom, go through each match, give our thoughts, our predictions for each matchups. We're doing that next week, but Josh, just real quick, your overall thoughts from hearing this announced card.
I think that for those people who were out there, and I didn't see a lot of it, but I heard a lot about it, that were angry about this card or disappointed about this card or upset about this card, I would say, aside from one match on the main show, which is the never title match, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And if you are upset, let's use an old WWE FDS adage. Let's see how it plays out.
Yeah.
I can almost guarantee you with this list of talent and this many title matches and, the other surprises, Sasha Banks or whatever the fuck you want to call her and everything else that might be in between, this is going to be a legendary card. And this is the best lineup of Wrestle Kingdom matches and talent that we've had since pre-pandemic, since just before the pandemic hit. So I am extremely excited and I cannot wait for this show. It's going to be blow away, even if you're not high. And I'm not making excuses for the main event. I think they've had an abysmal build. One of the worst builds we've seen in our lifetimes for Wrestle Kingdom. It's still Okada and Jay White. They're still going to go out there and put in a not near 5-star performance.
Right. It's one of those cases where the build sucks, but the bell rings and it's going to be great. Like Jay White and Okada have never had a not great match. So those guys.
I don't know about that, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
I mean, a big time title main event.
Big time title main event in the dome. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, these guys are going to deliver. They have great chemistry. There's a great story to be told in the ring. I just wish they told some of that in the build. But that's going to be a great matchup as well. So yeah, overall, I think the card looks great. I'm very excited for this show, and like you're saying,
even the pre-show looks good.
Yes, I mean you got a 3-minute exhibition with the new young lion Boltin Oleg.
Boltin Oleg's gonna fuck people up. Bro, I can't wait for the in a year from now we're gonna be like, are you Boltin Oleg or are you like Luke or what's the dude's name?
Oscar Lube.
Are you a Lube fan or are you a Oleg fan? It's like two giant monster white men.
The Rambo, that's always going to be, fun. You don't know who's going to be in that. You'll get some mystery, surprise entrance. That'll be fun.
Kabuki.
And then this, the Inoki Memorial 6-man. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. And then you get to the main card, and the main card looks great. The one sore there, like you mentioned, the never title match with Carl Anderson and Tama Tonga, which honestly, with this card, it's probably
not going to be great. We're going to be getting rid of the WWE trash.
Right. And it's probably not going to be that long anyway. With this card, Jay and Okada are going to need to get some time. Ospreay and Kenny are going to need to get some time. So a lot of these matches are not going to be super long. And I see some people complaining about the length potentially, like,
oh no, too much great wrestling. Don't give me 5 hours of classic banger after banger after banger. Fuck that.
Yeah, I mean, Wrestle Kingdoms, we've talked about this all time. Wrestle Kingdoms are paced so well. They don't feel like you've sat there and wasted 5 or 6 hours. Like, they breeze by. I mean, there have been several times where we've watched Wrestle Kingdom together, me, you, and Rich, and we'd be like, man, that was a breeze. Like, is it over already? Like, it was such a great show, and that's because they have that great pace, and based off of the card order right here, they have that pacing. You're going to start that junior tag team title match, and then you get to the main event.
I just decided. I know we talked about it. I was on the fence. Fuck it. I'm taking that day off. Come over. We're going to have breakfast. We're watching this shit. It's happening, bro.
Let's do it. Yeah, I'm off that whole week. Let's do it.
Oh, man. So we got a lot of questions here. A lot of this stuff I think is going to border on what we're going to discuss next week. So I don't know how much we're going to get into, but people are excited. So Death Triangle 720 said, do you think Gato should have done something to add more intrigue to Okada and Jay's match? I think they could have had like Jay talking crap about Okada's wife and newborn and Okada goes and attacks him or something. And he also said, should FTR lose the tag titles right now? And I don't want to get into predictions just yet. I want to save that till next week. Mm-hmm. But I agree with him. They should have done more for the main title build. And it needs it desperately, and it's not going to happen.
Yes, Gato should have done more. Did he have the option to do more? Probably not. We've seen how little Jay White's been in Japan, even since restrictions have been open for foreigners to get back into the country. He's not even on the Road to Tokyo Dome tour, so he can't even do anything there. So he's been kind of very absent throughout the build of this and just New Japan in Japan this year. So maybe there was stuff he wanted to do, but Jay's like, I'm not coming. So
Raising Falcon said, do you think there's a possibility of Will Ospreay costing Kenny Omega the best of 7 series before Wrestle Kingdom to add more fuel to the fire before their match at Wrestle Kingdom? And I'll tell you flat out, absolutely, with 100% conviction, no.
Yeah, I don't think that. I mean, they could do that, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I mean, you could have maybe even after the best of 7, Ospreay and Aussie Open showing up. Last time they were on Dynamite, they beat down the Elite after that trios title tournament matchup. So they could do something like that, like a little angle, but I don't think they're necessarily going to be part of why the Elite would lose.
AEW has not shown any sort of inclination to promote New Japan events and storylines that they weren't profiting off personally on their side of the pond. So I don't see that happening, especially considering Kenny's playing a heel in Japan and a super white meat babyface in America. So no.
Yeah.
Okay. 890 said, thoughts on keeping Shingo off the main show? I understand it's already pretty crowded, but Shingo is on the level of the best wrestlers in that card. Hey, I said it before the tag leagues began. I said, hey, if someone of an ilk of a Shingo or a Suzuki or an Ishii or what have you can't make it onto the main show, so be it. And unfortunately, do I think Shingo should be in the world title picture scene? Absolutely. Do I think that his days in the main event are over? No, I don't. Do I think he's been relegated to lower mid-card status like Evil? No, I don't. Am I a little disappointed? Yeah, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it does seem kind of a little bit of a misstep considering this guy was in main event of night 1 of the Tokyo Dome.
It was almost like they got they got booked into a corner in that one.
Yeah, now he's probably going to just be in the Rambo, which I guess is fine here. But like you said, I do prefer the method of, hey, everybody can't get on the main card. Like,
right.
Sorry, try again next year. And I love Shingo. He's probably my favorite in New Japan next to Will Ospreay. I would love to see him in a main, match on the main card. But, better luck next year.
With Oleg being 29 and having his debut at Wrestle Kingdom, do you think Oleg is going to get irregular treatment compared to the standard young lion? Let's see him have a match. If he's good, then yeah. If he's like a Kitamura, like someone who is super physically imposing and also has tons of charisma and upside, possibly. But we got to see him wrestle. If he's not good, then no, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just based off of his size, like you're saying, I could see a Kitamura-like push and maybe where he uses more power moves and doesn't have to stick to the basic young lion maneuvers. So yeah, we're going to learn a lot in those 3 minutes come Tokyo Dome.
Mr. Dominant 3 says the rest of the Best of 7 series over in AEW seems to have a lot of dangerous matches in it. Now, supposedly, if it makes it to the end of the series, the last match is a ladder match. I'm praying for Kenny to keep healthy and nothing bad happens, but things can happen between now and January 4th. So what are your feelings about it? By the way, give the young boy my congratulations on passing the test. Bash, I got to tell you, we know that you're Bash, and you be commenting on our stuff on social media as Bash. We know you're fucking Bash. But I do appreciate the congratulations, and we always appreciate your interactions with us. And I am 100% in agreement with Bash in the sense that ever since they even announced the Best of 7 series, I was very nervous about it altogether. But my understanding is that the January 4th match is in the middle of the series, not at the end of the series. Is that correct?
Well, this coming up Wednesday, they're doing the no DQ match.
Right.
And then I think
they're off until January 4th, and then they have the final 2 matches after that.
Right, yeah, the Falls Count Anywhere and the ladder match. So again, there's no DQ tomorrow night. There is potential for injury there, but there's potential for injury in a regular matchup. We see guys get hurt off of baseball slides or doing very simple maneuvers. So Yes, obviously with no DQ, using weapons and gimmicks does kind of elevate the risk, but I mean, Kenny could get hurt. He could have gotten hurt in one of the regular trios matches.
This isn't a good thing, but it's the one thing if you're sadistic like me and you're just a fiend for the star ratings. The one thing I will say is that this man Kenny Omega fought with a fucking hurt neck, fucking hurt back,
vertigo,
hurt vertigo, every single thing under the sun for
years,
like half a decade, and we couldn't tell. So if something went really bad, it would have to be really bad for him to not be able to come to Japan and put in what is very likely going to be the performance of a lifetime against, a guy that's equally as talented in ring as him. And the last time I felt like Kenny Omega was going into a Tokyo Dome match against someone equally as talented as him, it was Wrestle Kingdom. What was that? 11 with him and Okada.
Yeah.
And I predicted at the time it would be one of, if not the greatest match that we'd ever seen up to that point, and it lived up to that expectation. I think we can all put our expectations right up to that level, and even if this guy is hurt, he's gonna fucking do whatever it takes to go out there and have one of the greatest matches that there's ever been. And so is Will Ospreay. So I am a little concerned. I was more concerned at the outset of the Best of 7 series, but they've already gotten through 4 of them, and we're going into 5. I feel confident we're going to be okay. But, bro, I swear to God, if something robs us of Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay, I'm gonna burn down the condo. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, injuries can happen at any time. Like you said, Kenny is a freak of nature, and like literally, it would have to be something where like something is completely like his ACL, something completely ripped or blown, where he couldn't fly and get over and do the match. So I have confidence that obviously him, the Bucks, and the Lucha Bros and Pac, all super professionals. They know how to take care of each other in there, and I feel like they'll be fine. He'll make it to the Tokyo Dome.
Next question, Skywalker 3030 said, "What would you like to see out of New Year's Dash since it's in a big arena this year? I hope they throw some killer matches from the guys who weren't featured big on Wrestle Kingdom in, along with the usual angle-heavy multi-mans to capitalize off the buzz from Wrestle Kingdom."
Yeah, so I think like he's saying here, we need a lot of angles. I'm sure they will try to highlight some guys that didn't get on the Tokyo Dome card, but I think the key importance here is going to be angles and setting the playing field for 2023. Who are the guys that are getting pushed? What stables are getting pushed? Are there going to be new stables, new tag teams? So I think that's kind of going to be the big thing to capitalize off of. The momentum of Wrestle Kingdom is, setting up hot, new, exciting feuds, rivalries, and angles that are going to play out throughout the year.
2023 will be the year of ELP.
Yeah.
Put it down now. What would you like to see NJP do during Wrestle Kingdom angle-wise, potentially in New Year's Dash and the 121 show with the big names that aren't booked to do anything other than the Rambo, namely Shingo? So kind of the same territory what he asked there, but I think that guys like Shingo and ELP will be utilized to a stronger degree coming out of those shows for sure.
Yeah, and I could see Shingo and ELP being 2 of the 4 guys that make it into the 4-way for KOPW for New Year's Dash.
Taichi.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Taichi's in it too.
Yeah, Great Okan. Like there's several guys that could be in that 4-way.
That's champion of the British, Great Okan.
That's right. Yeah, the undisputed British champion, Great Okan.
How do you think NJPW should capitalize on the hype they will get back with cheering in this Wrestle Kingdom 17 card? I think the most important thing is having angles that feel like a big deal, that make it feel like pre-COVID NJPW again or something new, and making this new young lion graduating crop seem like a big deal. And I think, again, he's kind of touching on the same thing that he asked in the previous 2 questions. They need to capitalize on the success and the heat that's been generated from the interest from Wrestle Kingdom with big exciting angles to lead into mid-January and early February for sure.
Yeah, and then also featuring a lot of new stars. Also, Ren Narita and Chiro Umino are getting big spots on the Dome. They need to follow up on the next night. Continue follow up with Kevin Knight, Coughlin, Kidd, Connors, all those guys. These new young lions, Oleg and Oscar Lube, and then Oiwa and Vegeta and Nakashima. So yeah, there's plenty of chance to highlight these guys. Any of the other foreigners that are going to be established in that year, also bring them in as well. So yeah, like we've been saying, capitalize on the angles, set up new feuds and rivalries.
At Dragon Master Adam said, going into the new year, what do you think New Japan needs to do differently to keep the new/returning fans after Wrestle Kingdom? Any angles or creative changes you think would make it more appealing while keeping the spirit of New Japan? And I got to tell you, I'm that's a little bit more into the territory of speculation than I like to get into, and it's a little too early. But I think it falls right in line with what we discussed earlier, that like the thing that's been missing from New Japan post Wrestle Kingdom the last few years is exciting changes, breakups, shakeups, angles. And I think the table is set for that to happen again.
Yeah, I mean, you threw it out earlier, something like Bullet Club breaking up or Chaos breaking up. More.
Oh, come on, baby. Come on. Come on. I got my fingers crossed.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, with Jay not showing up to Japan, like I don't know what his contract status is, but I've been kind of getting the feeling that he might be getting phased out next year. So I could see if they keep Bullet Club, ELP like ousting him and taking over, or some kind of faction breaking out from them. But yeah, something like that to mix things up, along with Suzuki-gun ending would be good.
Great. So this coming week, we've got the Road to Tokyo Dome. Night 1 is December 22nd. Night 2, December 23rd. We're going to run through the show real quick. So the first night, we have Kosei Fujita taking on Francesco Akira in singles action. Yuto Nakashima versus Aaron Hanare. Ryohei Oiwa versus Great Okan. And Jeff Cobb versus Oscar Luebe. So we've got 4 Lions versus 4 United Empire members in singles action.
Yeah, an interesting note there, too. The last time they did this last year, this led to people going on excursion. Obviously, a lot of these guys are kind of fresh in the Young Lion program, but still, with them wanting to accelerate things, it is interesting that they're all for getting singles matches here.
I don't remember that at all. After that, we got Shota Umino, Satoshi Kojima, and Toge Makabe taking on Sonata, Shingo Takagi, and Tetsuya Naito. Obviously, Umino is opposite of Naito in the Muto's last match 6-man tag, so it's a preview for that. Ren Narita, Tomo Aki Hanma will be taking on Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi, potentially the last ever tag team match for the Dangerous Techers, and also a preview match between Ren Narita and Zack Sabre Jr. for the World Television Tournament title finals at Wrestle Kingdom. Semi-main event, we have 6 or 9 taking on the LIJ team of Hiromu and Bushi versus the Suzuki-gun team of Desperado and Kanemaru, and the Bullet Club team of Ishimori and Gato. Again, potentially the final time we ever see Desperado and Kanemaru team together. But it's a fatal 4-way tag team junior match as a preview for the fatal 4-way IWGP heavyweight tag or
junior
heavyweight
singles match,
junior title at Wrestle Kingdom. And so it's kind of a preview match for that. And then your main event on night 1, Tanahashi, Okada, and Yo will take on the team of Suzuki, Lance Archer, and Doki. So again, because there is no Jay White in town, this is basically a major guys of Hantai / Chaos taking on the guys from Suzuki-gun in one of their final matches.
I mean, Lance Archer here is showing up more than Jay White.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And I think officially he's had more matches this year in New Japan than he's had in AEW.
Yeah.
Night 2. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to run through night 2.
Oh, go ahead.
Night 2, December 23rd. Show open up will have Yuto Nakashima and Oscar Lube versus Yujiro Takahashi and Sho. Roy Oiwa and Kosei Vegeta versus Tomohiro Ishii and Toru Yano. Togi Makabe, Tomioka Hanuma, Tiger Mask, and Ren Narita versus Jeff Cobb, Great Okan, Aaron Hinare, and Francesco Akira. Hiroshi Tenzan and Satoshi Kojima versus Yoshihashi and Hiroki Goto versus Hiromu Takahashi and Shingo Takagi versus Evil and Dick Togo. Then Hiroshi Tanahashi, Rishika Taguchi, and Shota Umino versus Tetsuya Naito, Sonata, and Bushi. Kazuchika Okada, Yo, and Master Wato versus El Phantasmo, Taiji Shimori, and Gato. And then the big main event, the final time that Suzuki-gun will team up Minoru Suzuki, Lance Archer, El Desperado, and Taka Michinoku will take on Zack Sabre Jr., Taichi, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and Doki. So Suzuki-gun versus Suzuki-gun, the last time that all 8 of these guys will be together as a team representing Suzuki-gun in this kind of big final farewell matchup here. And, with tradition, the last Road to Tokyo Dome show after the main event, usually the snow falling, so we're probably in store for a big emotional send-off here with the snow falling in Korakuen Hall.
Yeah, this is a kind of a strange show top to bottom. I mean, we've got that fatal four-way between Tenzan and Tenkoji, Bishamon, Hiromu and Shingo, and House of Torture's Evil and Dick Togo. That's kind of just randomly thrown together. A lot of the undercard stuff isn't anything that's really previewing the Tokyo Dome. One of the only the top 3 matches though all do have a very heavy focus. You got Tanahashi and Naito and Sonata on opposite, and Tanahashi and Umino on opposite sides of Naito and Sonata. So that's obviously building again to Muto's final 6-man tag team match in New Japan. And then your main event, even though there is no Jay White, you've got Okada on the opposite end of Bullet Club members, kind of playing proxy for Jay White. But that final 8-man tag, all Suzuki-gun match, that's one where we've already kind of gone through a few different scenarios, but there's always just, this is them riding off into the sunset, and it's the I'm sorry, I love you, and everyone cries. And that is also on the table, that this is just the final send-off period for this group.
So one correction here. So that's actually not a fatal 4-way. When I copied and pasted, it's got 2 matches got combined together here. So it's actually, I was like, what the fuck is that? I know when I was reading it, I was like, this does not seem right. But yeah,
I was like, why do we have that on here? But it's New Japan. Anything can happen. Like, they do wacky stuff for the Road to Tokyo Dome.
Yeah. So it's actually 2 separate tag team matches. So it's
it's Tenkoji versus Bishamon and Hiromu and Shingo versus Evil and Dick Togo.
Yes.
That makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
That's funny. And Tenkoji kind of, they're sort of like long in the tooth, and like they weren't even in tag league this year, and them jobbing.
Well, that's because Kojima had to defend his GHC.
Bro, isn't that funny that he's like the world champion? He's like the world tag team champions over in Noah.
Yeah.
But Tenkoji are done, and them being like the longtime domestic successful tag team in New Japan, passing off the mantle to Bishamon, kind of symbolic.
Yeah. So overall, really good 2 nights here of Road to Tokyo Dome, final build to Wrestle Kingdom. And speaking of Wrestle Kingdom, we do have a update on Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, whatever name she's going to be using going forward. So new details available about her deal with NJPW. So we talked about the initial news last week with Karen. Since then, Dave Meltzer addressed Banks' status in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. And Uncle Dave noted that while Banks' agreement is with NJPW, it also includes one Stardom date, likely a major show the promotion has planned for the spring. Also, there was stuff going around on Twitter this week that Mercedes is in Japan and looking to do like some collaboration stuff with companies in Japan. So clearly she's going to be in Japan. All signs are pointing with her, showing up at Wrestle Kingdom 17 being involved some way in the IWGP Women's title picture. Josh, you weren't here last week. What are your thoughts on Mercedes, Sasha coming in to NJPW?
Kairi beats Tam in a great, probably short match, but a great match nonetheless. And after that's over, we hear this. Okay.
Have Milano. It's a boss time.
It's boss time. Oh my god, it's gonna be so funny. Yo, I just want to say this for everybody that hates this. You're gonna have to fucking hate, because I love it. I am so happy that this is happening. It's so funny, bro.
Does she bring Snoop Dogg with her?
Yeah, bro. It's Snoop Dogg's cousin. Like, Snoop Doggie's cousin. It was so great.
Oh my god.
You know, I think that a lot obviously has led to this. You know, over the years, there's just been so much between WWE and management and Sasha and yada yada yada, whatever. I won't rehash everything that you and Karen went over last week when I was off the show, but I was jealous listening to the show. I was like, damn, I want to discuss this so badly. So badly. But I did hear a part of the discourse where there was discussion about Sasha and her involvement overshadowing the match between Tam and Kairi. And I did notice how, even though, yes, a week ago when the news was breaking out that Sasha was going to be here and the reporting and everything, if you notice, New Japan hasn't tweeted anything about it, reported anything about it, promoted it. Maybe that's due to legal reasons. They might not be able to. But also, I think that we all deserve to give a little tip of the hat to management and the fact that they haven't really done anything but promote the IWGP women's match that is on the table as it stands right now, which is between Tam Nakano and Kairi. I do understand that there is some discourse within Joshi communities where it's like, okay, unfortunately, this match that should be really great and probably will be is being kind of totally overshadowed by the incoming of Sasha Banks / Mercedes Renato. Or what's her other
Mercedes Moné,
whatever it may be. And the only thing I got to tell you about that is, like, money talks, star power is a thing. And unfortunately, for those who are really, really drawn into that aspect of it, as good as that match could possibly be, we've seen people who are very talented be put in the same kind of slot on a 5-hour, or actually the main show will probably be 4 hours realistically. I think of Zack Sabre Jr. versus Tomohiro Ishii for the Rev Pro title like 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys had some classics leading into the Tokyo Dome, and then they got like 12 minutes. That's probably what you're going to see Kairi and Tam get, is sub 15 minutes, considering how long the show is and how many matches are on it. And it's just not going to have the same kind of opportunity to have the same sort of emphasis and delivery that the historic crossover match between Mayu and Kairi was able to have. They will go out there, they will wow us, they will have a hard-hitting, incredible match. But when it's over and it's said and done, we do need something to carry over and really matter when it comes to this title. And the fact that New Japan has landed probably, by all accounts, the most talented and most accomplished women's wrestler in North American history, bar none, and the biggest marketable name and free agent that exists on the women's side in Sasha Banks. Sometimes the things that are on the schedule just have to take a back seat to things that are bigger. This reminds me, hypothetically, of when Chris Jericho came into the company and took attention away from Kenny Omega. And I believe at the time he was facing Trent Barrera. It was either Trent Barrera or it was Juice Robinson. I think it was Trent. I can't recall. And as cool as that match was, and as great it was built up to be, and as good as the match was, we ended up with something that shifted the wrestling industry in Jericho and Kenny Omega. That's what we're getting with Kyrie and Sasha when whether she shows up in person, whether it's a video package, I'm not quite sure what it's going to be. But at the end of the day, it's going to be for the betterment of New Japan and Stardom, hypothetically. Now, could this all come crashing down? Totally. But the idea and my feeling on this, what the reason why Bushiroad is willing to shell out crazy money for Sasha Banks is that they're hoping that it has a similar effect for both New Japan and Stardom as bringing in Chris Jericho had for the company all the way back in, 2018?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that they know that it's going to be a money loser in a certain sense. They know that they're overpaying. Well, I don't want to say overpaying but like the reality is as popular as Sasha is, she's not going to draw domestically and equate to immediate monetary success for New Japan the way that, like, I don't know, bringing in like some other more established name might be.
Yeah.
But the idea is, if you were to hypothetically present to me, okay, we want to make people aware of Stardom, and the only way we can do that is by bringing in a North American woman to come in and work conjointly with New Japan and Stardom to galvanize a fan base to come in and watch major shows for New Japan and also become aware of Stardom and maybe pay attention to what they're doing and even watch their shows. The most rabid fan base that exists for a woman is Sasha's fan base. The woman who pulls in the most numbers by any metric, whether it's on social media or merchandise or pay-per-views or television ratings, it's Sasha Banks, bar none. It doesn't matter what your personal proclivity is. Whether
you mean it's not Charlotte?
It's not Charlotte. It's not Bianca Belair. It's not Becky Lynch. Although obviously there was a time where Becky was bigger than her. Just over the course of the last 6 or 7 years, it's been Sasha Banks.
Yeah.
There is no perfect scenario that you could, or it's not even Britt Baker. There's no perfect scenario that you could paint to me that would be more hypothetically. I'm not saying it's going to work, but if you were going to make this play, Sasha's who you do it with. This is the time to do it. You have an opportunity to get her. I don't think even long-term it means she's even going to stick around. It sounds like she's working a couple dates for both companies. But the best case scenario is you get fans who know that Stardom exists, but have never seen it, who obviously know about New Japan, but maybe don't watch it, and they tune in because they want to see Sasha over in Japan, and then they turn into a Stardom show or a Wrestle Kingdom, and they're like, holy fuck, this is the greatest wrestling I've ever seen in my life. And they tune in for Sasha, but they stick around for Shuri and Tekla and Julia and Tam and blah, 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 and Mayu, and you name it. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, my whole life I thought that I was watching women's wrestling, and this is the actual women's wrestling. And also this is
that real.
Yeah, this is that fucking real. And I never knew about it. And this happened for a whole large audience years ago with Chris Jericho. I mean, look how influential that was. I think that we're looking at the same thing here, and I think that there are pearl clutchers on the Puro and the Joshi side of things that they're like, well, they're bringing her in, let's see. And it's like, you guys don't see the vision. this company is making a major fucking play, and it's good for her. It's good for them. It's good for Stardom. This is a plus, plus, plus for everybody. We, the fans, we're the winners. We get to see this shit. I can't wait to see Kyrie versus Sasha Banks.
Yeah, and also
it's gonna rule.
It's gonna be a big shot in the arm for the Western expansion. Things here in America have not been as hot as they were before the Elite left. So the potential of Mercedes working New Japan of America shows is gonna be a big deal. That's gonna help strong attendance. It's gonna help these US pay-per-views draw and get more popular. You're going to have more Western fans who want to invest in New Japan, and it'll be a perfect time to capitalize and do more stuff here in America that actually gets over and has some buzz.
And because New Japan has a working relationship with AEW, hypothetically, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but like there's a possibility that you could have Sasha work at New Japan of America show against a major AEW woman. Like, let's just throw an example out there. Hikaru Shida. Or even
Tony Storm.
What about Riho?
Oh yeah, Riho.
You know what I mean? And that's something where I'm like, oh fuck. Like if I find out that they're running a show in Chicago and they got Sasha versus Riho, I might want to go to that show. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of possibilities there. It's really incredible. And I think it is funny how it's funny to see the different audiences, because there's such all these different groups that have different ways of looking at wrestling and how they're perceiving things. Like 2 or 3 weeks ago, it was like, well, Sasha might go over there. Maybe that means she's gonna WWE New Japan have a working relationship. And me and Rich have been talking about it, and I was like, they don't realize like she's gone. And shout out to Raj Giri. I don't agree with everything that this guy says, but he said back in the summer that she was gone, and he was right.
Yeah.
So
shout out to Raj over at Wrestling Inc.
Shout out to that guy. But yeah, man. I mean, and it's also funny too. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I've voiced my opinion about my conspiracy theories about New Japan and their women's division, and it is interesting that Sasha's not signing to work these dates with Stardom. She's signing to work with New Japan. And if she does go work for Stardom, it's New Japan that's footing the bill. It's Bushiroad that's footing the bill, not Rossi, who also probably should get some sort of commendation from like One Nation Radio, maybe Finesser of the Year, because he's getting, Bushiroad to foot the bill for him to bring in Sasha Banks, which is pretty incredible.
So overall, it's going to be an exciting time to see what exactly she's going to end up doing, how she's going to be brought out.
I cannot wait for the Sasha stands that don't know about Bushiroad's totalitarian ways when it comes to not Bushiroad, but like TV
Asahi for the gifts. Yeah, TV
Asahi.
God,
they're gonna post gifts. And they're going to get their fucking shit shut down. It's going to be...
Dude, TV Asahi is going to wipe out like half the Sasha stand. It's going to be like Thanos. It's like a snap.
I've seen literal like Sasha stan groups putting out disclaimers like, all right, guys, this is the info. This is the info of how you can watch New Japan. This is the info of how you can watch Stardom. Here's where you can expect to see her. Here's how it works. Like giving them like an introduction to Joshi and Perezu, and then also the disclaimer, like, do not post gifts with TV Asahi. You will lose your shit.
They will find you. They don't play with that copyright.
They're like Liam Neeson in Taken. It's like, I have a certain special set of skills that make it horrible for people like you. I will find you.
Oh man. Yeah. Keep the gifts in the group chats.
Oh man, I can't wait. And I love this. I'm living for it. I love to see the outrage from all these different, I've seen FDSers mad. I've seen Perezu fans, like the gatekeepers mad. I've seen the hardcore Joshi stands mad. It's just so great. Just all these different people so outraged. When at the end of the day, we're going to get I think in Yokohama, we're getting Sasha versus
Kyrie.
fucking Kyrie. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. Well, that wraps it up on the Sasha / Mercedes conversation. Let's jump into New Japan Strong real quick.
Also, Sasha, if you want to come on the show, you're always welcome. We're not going to pay you, but we'll give you some exposure. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we'll get you acclimated with the New Japan fan base. But this past Saturday, we had night 3 of the New Japan Strong Nation tour. We had...
I did not watch this.
Well, let's run through it real quick. Bateman defeated Jacob Austin Young. Jacob Austin Young, kind of a fresh indie guy.
Jacob Austin Young. That's like, who's that?
He's been on Strong for a couple times now. He's a younger guy. He's been making a few Strong appearances. Good opening match here with Bateman. Bateman gets the win. The second match, we had Kenta showing up and defeating Bad Dude Tito, 7 minutes and 53 seconds. Good matchup here. Kenta ends up using a ref distraction and a low blow to roll up Bad Dude Tito, which again I think plays well for Bad Dude Tito that a top guy had to cheat to beat him. Couldn't just beat him clean. So interesting, Kenta showing back up on New Japan Strong. Commentary did make a big deal about that, especially since him winning that New Japan Cup of America was kind of a big deal that kind of kicked off a lot of things for Strong a couple of years ago. And then the main event, we had the first Strong tag team title defense from the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. They defeated the Stray Dog Army team of Barrett Brown and Mysterioso. Fun main event. Also, the Machine Guns are a really great tag team and worked really well with Barrett Brown and Mysterioso. Got their first successful defense, and I'm looking forward to their next defense on the Nemesis Tour. They're facing off our good friend Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta, Roppongi Vice. So Motor City Machine Guns making a big deal here in a New Japan Strong. And then next Saturday, Christmas Eve, December 24th, will be the final New Japan Strong of 2022. The show open up will have Lince Dorado making his Strong debut, teaming up with Mascara Dorado to take on the team of Cody Chun and Guillermo Rojas.
The second best Cody that's ever showed up in New Japan.
Then Bobby Fish will be making his Strong debut by taking on...
Oh, yeah. Bobby Fish is in New Japan ever since I was off. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's right. It lines up with Team Filthy. He's taking on Kevin Blackwood this week. And then the main event for the Strong Openweight Championship, the champion, Fred Rosser, Mr. No Days Off, will defend against J.R. Kratos, who was handpicked by Switchblade Jay White as a favor to Filthy Tom Lawler. The last Strong title match of the year on this final week of Detonation.
I got Kratos. I'm putting all my money on Kratos. Let's jump into the news. So this past week, actually just yesterday, JTO 50th anniversary for Taka Taichi Together, the last Taka Taichi event that occurred. It is available on New Japan World as a pay-per-view. Some of the major news that was coming out of it. We had Suzuki-gun team of Doki and Minoru Suzuki. They defeated the Unchained team of Jun Kasai and Tomoaki Hanma by referee's decision in 16 minutes and 44 seconds. I'm hearing that this is a match of the year contender level match. Definitely something we want to check out for excursion match of the year. The Suzuki-gun team of El Desperado and Lance Archer defeated Damnation TA. That's Daisuke Sasaki and MJ Paul by DQ, 15 minutes and 39 seconds. Best 2 out of 3 falls match. Hiromu Takahashi defeated Taka Michinoku, 2 falls to nothing, 11 minutes and 48 seconds. And then the main event, the NJPW King of Pro Wrestling title, last man standing lumberjack match. Shingo Takagi, the reigning champion, defeated Taichi by KO, 29 minutes, 39 seconds, crowning Shingo Takagi as the 2022 official King of Pro Wrestling. Not provisional, not lineal, literal. He is the champion. And now, after this match was over, he was champion, and now he is no longer champion. Now it is vacant. It's the bittersweet truth, the KOPW. You only become champion for a moment, a fleeting moment, and then it's over. So In other news, RevPro Uprising 2022, Great O'Khan is now the new British heavyweight champion as a result of Ricky Knight Jr. not being able to compete. His it says brother, but I think it's his uncle, Zach Zodiac. Is that correct?
I'm not sure. I know they're related somehow. They're all knights.
Okay. Zach Zodiac defended the title on his behalf against NJPW's Great O'Khan and lost. So so now Great O'Khan is the champion, even though he didn't beat the champion RKJ. So also Will Ospreay defeated Tomohiro Ishii on the same show in a match that was supposed to be one thing and then another thing, and then Will Ospreay had to step in at the last minute. We ended up with Ospreay and Ishii on a RevPro show, so that's pretty cool. Heard good things about that too. NJPW has announced a 4-day Oceania Cup event for Wagga. See, I listened to another show and they said, even though it says Wagga Wagga, you're not supposed to say that. You're just supposed to say it once. Wagga. Government. The event was made possible by a grant from the New South Wales government, according to the release. So there's going to be a special, cup that's going to be taking place in Australia in 2023 for South Wales. Also, there is an Antonio Inoki Bombay show on December 28th as part of his final Last Will and Testament. He put away some money and decided that he wanted there to be a final Inoki Bombay show in his memory, and announced for that December 28th show, Tom Lawler will be facing off against Katsuyori Shibata.
What a wild matchup.
Yeah, so we're getting Shibata and Lawler December 28th on the Tokyo Inoki Memorial Show, which is incredible. Also, this past week, the Motor City Machine Guns became dual champions as they defeated the team of Rhino, and I don't know what name he's going by now, but Heath Slater?
I think it's just Heath.
Okay, Heath. For the Impact World Tag Team titles. They hold both the Impact World Tag Team titles and the Never Openweight Strong Tag Team title. So congratulations to Motor City Machine Guns. Big fans of those guys. This past week, Tokyo Sports revealed their 2022 award winners. Some of the results. The MVP this year, once again, Kazuchika Okada. The best bout or match of the year, New Japan Pro Wrestling G1 Finals, August 18th from the Nippon Budokan. Kazuchika Okada versus Will Ospreay. Best tag team of the year, Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb, which I will tell you, I voted them number one for Keepin It Strong Style's tag team of the year, but it looks like they're potentially getting robbed by someone in their own state.
I feel like tag team of the year is the one category that always just doesn't go right.
It just never goes right. Outstanding Performance Award, Kento Miyahara from All Japan. Fighting Spirit Award, Great O'Khan from New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm going to assume that's because he saved that little girl.
Yeah.
Technique Award, El Lindemann from GLATE. Women's Wrestling Grand Prize, Shuri from Stardom. Newcomer Award, Yuma Anzai from All Japan Pro Wrestling. That is the young lot, or the I don't know what you want to call him. I don't think they call him Young Lions over there, but he's the green boy that we had talked about months and months and months ago that I saw first reported by our friends over at Super J-Cast that Yuji Nagata was trying to get him to come into the LA or into the Noge Dojo, and he ended up opting to work for All Japan instead. But he is the newcomer of the year for Japan, and the Professional Wrestling Grand Prize Honor Award, the late Antonio Inoki. And that's going to take us to the questions.
Yeah, we are running up on time here. You want to bump these to next week, or you want to run through them real quick?
Let's just fucking run through them. I've been gone. We'll go quick. All short answers.
So at Oscar Rooney says, we are in a transition period in New Japan. Lots of changes. What other changes do you want to see in the coming year?
I want to go back to the regular calendar. I want to shake up a couple more of these groups, namely Bullet Club and Chaos. And I want to see the elevation of a lot of young talent in major ways, not minor ways, not slow ascensions. I want to see title challenges, title wins, and new groups.
I agree with all that. I also want to see a compelling World Heavyweight title picture.
I agree.
I feel like this year it was kind of a downer for the world title. So
yeah, thanks Okada and Jay White.
Next question from Dr. Lariat the Dark. How do you see the 2023 main event scene? Will Sonata get there?
Hopefully not. Hopefully he stays out. Stay the fuck out of the main event scene, Sonata. I don't need to see another main event with Sonata ever again. Period. I don't give a fuck about Sonata. Do you care about Sonata?
Not really. I mean, honestly, like, if he just stayed as in a tag team situation, I'd be totally fine with that. There are hotter, younger stars on the rise right now. We don't need to run back a New Japan Cup Sonata win.
Bro, you had a chance. You blew it. Move on. As far as the 2023 main event scene, hopefully it's better than it was this year. Because while New Japan did have a lot of great things going for it this year, and they even did have a lot of great main events, the title scene just wasn't it, bro.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. Next set of questions here from Hawaiian Punch BV says AJPW Suwama stated that Tajiri's philosophy about not sticking to one place for too long and Akira's success in New Japan definitely influenced Jake Lee's decision to leave. Do you think the odds of him going to New Japan have just increased to 100%, with Tajiri also leaving and many of his students and their friends being former stablemates with Jake Lee? Do you think there will be more All Japan wrestlers wanting to make the jump? Hokuto Omori is a guy that I can see with one foot out the door. He picked up 0 wins in the Junior Battle of Glory last month, and he is close with Jake Lee, Tajiri, and his students. New Japan can pick up All Japan's 2 brightest junior prospects in Akira and Omori without really doing much.
It's all very conditional and dependent. I mean, I do think that there's historically a route for junior talent to come into New Japan and make a bigger wave and splash because they turn over that talent quicker than the heavyweight scene does. I think it is much more difficult for someone to come into the heavyweight division and even just find their footing or make a name for themselves. We've seen that time and time again, even with like a guy like Jonah, who had as big of a push out the gate as you could possibly ask for someone in the G1. There was no indication that long-term moving forward, he was going to have a major role in the heavyweight division in New Japan. It's a very hard, tough nut to crack. I'm not so confident that Jake Lee does come here, considering how many failures in that title scene he did have in All Japan. If he did come in, it would be with the repackage. It would probably be with a lowering of his stature. I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up somewhere else in Japan personally, although I'm obviously welcome to him coming to Japan or coming to Shinihan.
Yeah, and New Japan also passed on him this year for the G1. He was campaigning for that, and they passed on him, even though there are a lot of reports indicating that he is pretty much coming to New Japan. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I think coming in with some other, guys from All Japan, you could have this kind of rogue group, invading New Japan and doing some kind of cool angle with that. So next question here, he says, Naoya Inoue unified the bantamweight titles this week. I think Usyk and Inoue are the top 2 pound-for-pound fighters in the world right now. Who do you think has the better claim for number 1? Naoya Inoue also said his next move is to go up to super bantamweight. Do you think this will be too much for him, especially since he looked small at bantamweight?
Yeah, I do think that weight class might be difficult for him, although, I'm not quite as much of an expert on those lower weight classes as I was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, but he is a dynamo right now. I mean, he's very, very, very impressive. I don't know if I would quite name him number 1 pound for pound in the sport right now, but he's not far from it. And there's probably compelling evidence that he is number 1. I do think that a jump up in weight might be, we'll just have to wait and see. But as far as Usyk, I love Usyk. I think he's fantastic. He's phenomenal. But you can lobby every single bit of criticism that you want on Tyson Fury, and I'm right there with you guys. But Usyk has not done anything more to establish himself as a greater pound for pound listed fighter than Tyson Fury has right now. So take that for what you will. But yeah, Inouye's great. He's incredible. And this most recent win has really landed him in the history books.
Then Skywalker 3030 says, any thoughts on the Jake Lee to NJPW rumors? Peep this recent match involving Jake Lee, ZSJ, Naito, and Shingo. If y'all can, give us a cage match link there. I truly think it would be their biggest signing since Ibushi, and he should 100% lead a faction and be a top guy if he makes his way there.
I mean, that's one of the only ways that this sort of makes sense on both sides for him and for the company would be to make him some sort of leader and give him a faction and really establish him if that's what they want to do, if they see that kind of potential in him. I personally don't see it. I think he's a fantastic talent. He's got a great look, but there is something missing. And with the wealth of talent that they already have in New Japan, I don't see the sense in establishing this guy as a tip-top guy when you have so many talented people chomping at the bit, ready and willing. To me, Jake Lee screams, bring him in as an underling. And there's nothing wrong with that. Shingo came in as an underling.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he has what it takes to come in underneath and rise through the ranks to become a tip-top guy. That's a very tough task, which again is why I've said in the now I do agree that match that he mentioned with with Naito and Zack Sabre Jr. does lend some credence to the idea that he might come in, but I just wouldn't be surprised if he becomes a freelancer, winds up in either a cyber agent or Big Japan or what have you.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm not super familiar with Jake Lee. I'll say I know he was a top guy in All Japan, and I've seen a couple of his matches, but not enough to where I'm super familiar with him. But I mean, I always welcome a new face in New Japan, give us some fresh matchups in tournaments and stuff like that. So
I would also disagree that bringing him in would be their biggest signing since Ibushi, because I mean, in a certain sense, yeah, maybe there is some truth to that, but from a talent standpoint, I mean, they signed Shingo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who is an all-time great professional wrestler and has even done more to make a case for that since he came to the company. So I would have to say Shingo has been the biggest signing. Plus, they just signed, they're signing Sasha Banks.
Exactly. Les Commission 7252 says, should Noah and New Japan create a match with Kenta and Marufuji for Wrestle Kingdom 17 in Yokohama on January 21st? They're challenging for the GHC tag team titles on Noah's New Year's show. Kenta could either betray Marufuji or attack him after the match and then set up one-on-one special singles match at Yokohama.
While both guys have a long and prolific history with New Japan, that just seems more of a Noah documented and historic feud. I mean, I guess they could try and breathe some new life into it in New Japan, but I'm not fully convinced. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I'm not fully convinced that the Yokohama show is going to be a Noah co-branded show. I think there's a possibility that it might be an AEW New Japan show.
Mm-hmm.
I also think there's a possibility it might just be an open. Who knows? I think there's the possibility that we could see a lot of different companies working with New Japan on that show. Potentially. I mean, we don't know anything yet. But if I was them, I don't know if I would go that route personally, unless they think that it's something that really would draw, and I'm not sure that it would.
Yeah, I think it's more, like you said, more of a Noah angle. Well, that's it for the questions. Let's do recommended match of the week real quick and get out of here. So last week, I recommended for the recommended match of the week, Road to Tokyo Dome 2015, Kazuchika Okada and Tomohiro Ishii versus Hiroshi Tanahashi and Katsuyori Shibata.
Listen, let me put it to you this way. If you were to tell me, hey, I saw this really great tag team match and it was in New Japan, I'd be like, tag matches in New Japan, how good could it be? And then if you're like, well, it's got Okada and Ishii from Chaos, and they're teaming up to take on Tanahashi and Shibata, I'm like, all right, now you got my attention. But, I mean, how good could that be? And then you tell me, well, it's not on a Road to show. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, what is it? They're like, it's the main event. The main event of what? The final night in Corkin for Road to Tokyo Dome. Oh shit. Okay, now we're talking for real. And then you tell me, and it's from 2015, and it's the preview for Wrestle Kingdom 10, and then I realized, like, oh, it happened in that timeline where those shows for Road to Tokyo Dome on the final night used to actually mean something and actually used to be fucking bangers. Now you got my full-fledged attention. Then you tell me Dave Meltzer gave it 4.5. All right, I'm all the fucking way in. This match, 23 minutes, high octane action. You got Okada and Tanahashi feuding for the IWGP Heavyweight title. You got Shibata and Ishii feuding actively for the Never Openweight title, the two most prolific champions in the history of the Never Openweight title's history. And then you take into account that all four of these guys are pretty much in their, competitive primes. And then you also take into account the history that all four men have with each other, and then the setting, and then the environment, and a hot, robust, Corkin crowd. This match fucking ruled. If you've never seen this match, go out of your way and check it out. It's everything that I'm telling you it is, as far as hype, as far as action, violent, beautiful, incredible. And the finish where Shibata and Tanahashi, they've already at this point put their differences aside and decided to work together, and they just fucking murk Ishii. And it's so awesome. I can't recommend this high enough. I'm higher on it now than I was when I saw it back in 2015. Go out of your way and catch this. It's so great.
Nice. Well, I got 2 matches to review here. I never reviewed your recommended match of the week pick from a few weeks ago. Chono versus Fujita from the G1. Pretty short match up here.
Let me give you a little bit of context here. Now, obviously, Chono has always done well in G1s, but this is his last dying grasp of a breath for a main event run towards the title in New Japan. And Fujita has gone undefeated in the G1 and is like in his, prime during Inokiism, where he's like Japanese Brock Lesnar. So you've got Chono from the old guard making a final run to try and salvage his main event title, candidacy, taking on the fucking killer that is Chono, who is undefeated in the G1 at this point.
Gotcha. So yeah, definitely add some context because the crowd was fully behind Chono and booing Fujita here. And so, yeah, like you mentioned, Fujita, there was definitely a Brock Lesnar type guy in this matchup here. Quick body slam to start off on Chono, and it was pretty much Chono kind of fighting from underneath the whole match. And Fujita did a big German to Chono off the apron to the floor. He's doing these nasty MMA style knees, running the knees down on Chono. And then every once in a while, Chono will kind of get a little hope spot, like a wheel kick or a suplex, jumping DDT, to kind of get back in the swing of things. Chono exposed his knee brace so he could do the Shining Wizard in the corners. Then Fujita came back, cut him off pretty quick there. And then eventually Chono was able to lock in the STF, but Fujita broke out of that. And then Chono once again started picking momentum there. He started raining down the same knees on Fujita, and then hit that Shining Wizard boot once, and Fujita kicked out of that. He hits it again, and he wins, even though Fujita did kick out right at 3 to kind of keep himself looking strong. But yeah, Chono got the win here.
Yeah, and a few years prior, Chono had won his one and only IWGP heavyweight title and had to drop it after 44 days due to, I believe, an injury. So there's always been this push, sort of like Naito. It's when's he going to get the big run? And so there's always been this this underswell or belly of belief that people are we want him to win another G1, even though he's old, so he can win the title, even though he never does win the title again. And it's insurmountable odds like that he could actually beat Chono, and he fucking somehow does finally do it. It's sort of a story match.
And then the other match I reviewed was the Excursion Match of the Week pick from last week, which was from PWA Black Label Coliseum 2022, Night 2.
XMCW.
XMCW. This was the final match in the Coliseum tournament with Robbie Eagles versus Adam Brooks. Fun match up here. Also kind of another story match here. Robbie Eagles coming in with a injured arm. And throughout the match, you had Brooks working on the injured arm and Eagles having to fight from underneath, kind of using some of his dynamic offense. There was a cool spot where he did the turbo backpack off the apron to the floor to Adam Brooks. And so, yeah, it's pretty much Robbie Eagles fighting from underneath and kind of hitting his cool offense when he could. Eventually, he picks up the win here over Adam Brooks after fighting through, being his arm being thrown into the posts, into the guardrails, into the corners. A lot of work was done on the arm, but he's able to fight back and defeat Adam Brooks to win the Coliseum tournament.
Where would you have gone star ratings wise and your just personal perception on both of these matches?
With Fujita and Chono, maybe like as watching it, I was more like 3.5 because honestly I didn't have the context of the full story. Maybe if I knew the story going in, maybe it would have been a little bit higher. But
most people go about that. Doesn't sound far off.
Then for this PWA match, maybe like 4.25 in that range somewhere.
Okay, so this is something that you thought was pretty great, but still probably, even though it's not in this year's grading period, it's from the past grading period. The question I really had was, did we miss the boat on not nominating it for Excursion Match of the Year? And it sounds like it probably would have missed the cut anyways had we watched it.
Yeah, I would say so. Okay.
Awesome. Well, that's good to know. I don't have to lose sleep wondering, did we snub the Coliseum finals? But I'm glad that we definitely got to check that out. So let's give our recommendations for next week.
All right. So I have the Excursion pick. So I'm going to go with the main event from yesterday's Takataichi show, Shingo Takagi versus Taichi in the final KOPW match of the year, that last man standing lumberjack match.
Okay, and we're going to do something a little bit different here since I didn't specifically pick out my recommended match of the week. I want to go ahead and do this. Jeremy, you give me a year, any year between 1991 and last year for January 4th, and I will pick the event, and then I'll give you the recommended match from that event for you to watch.
Let's go with 95.
Ooh, 1995. So let's take a look here, see what we've got on the table. So the 1995, that's NJPW Battle 7 from the Tokyo Dome. And I'm going to go ahead and recommend some really good ones on the table, but I will go ahead and recommend the main event of that evening. Shinya Hashimoto, the champion, the IWGP Heavyweight Champion, as he defends his title against the challenger, Kensuke Sasaki.
Nice.
4 stars, baby. 4 stars.
Nice.
From good old Dave.
Well, that's going to wrap the show up for this week.
Oh, and you should be glad because this is the same event where Sting, Tony Palmore, Antonio Inoki, and Gerard Gordeau wrestled each other in a BVD Cup martial arts tournament semifinal match. Or I'm sorry, just tournament. So it was a martial arts tournament involving Sting and Inoki. And they ended up in the finals against each other. And these 3 matches, all 3, had negative star ratings from Dave Meltzer.
Oh, man.
So you're lucky I didn't give you, just to be a dick, one of those 3 matches. I went ahead and gave you the good, the nice.
Well, that'll wrap it up. We'll review those matches next week. And next week, like we mentioned, Chris Samsa will be on the show. And we will be doing our big preview and predictions for Night 1 of Wrestle Kingdom 17 in Tokyo Dome. So if you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. The network is at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, we're facebook.com/Social Suplex. You can also find us in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. On Instagram, we're at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy. Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. The Grave Consequences, hosted by Caleb and Maserati. All Things Elite, hosted by Floyd and Austin. The AW Match Guide Podcast, hosted by Sir Sam. Great Match Generator, hosted by Danny Kukler. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban. Give us money for FOH. Do it. We don't charge you for anything else.
When it goes live.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
This holiday, whether you're making a Kroger Simple Truth Turkey for 40 or a Murray's Baked Brie for 2, Kroger has fast, fresh delivery and free pickup, so you can make holiday meals that bring you all together to create memories that last. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Free pickup on orders of $35 or more. Restrictions may apply.
Choose from a great selection of digital coupons and use them up to 5 times in one transaction. Check our app for details. Kroger, fresh for everyone.